What up, everybody? Good morning and a happy Friday, the day before opener. Appreciate you tuning in and making us a part of your starts, whether it's on the radio dials at 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also, stream it up online at sportstalk1051.com. Got your smart devices, your Google and Alexa home devices. Stream it up at, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok, Twitch. Trying to get used to the youngsters out there. Twitch over there. So a few different areas, or download the Sports Talk app and take it on the go wherever you're at. Maybe you're getting set to head over to deer camp and such, or maybe you're already hitting the roads early this morning. Whatever the case may be, a big thanks for tuning in, wherever, however you're tuning in. What do we got on a good old game plan for us this morning? It is Friday, so we've got football. Packers taking on the 49ers Sunday. Packers injury report. Jair did not practice again yesterday. However, he did reveal what exactly is going on with his knee, and it's a torn PCL ligament in his knee, and said re-aggravated it against Chicago and such. Not a season ender, it sounds like, but we're going to we'll talk more about this with our doc, Dr. Austin Crow from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, coming up for Inside the Training Room in just about an hour from now. So we'll get Doc's thoughts on Jair Alexander and his knee. But the Packers did have another player not able to participate yesterday, and it would be kind of a loss if he's not able to go, and that's Edgerrin Cooper, who's dealing with a hamstring. He was limited Wednesday, did not practice yesterday. We'll see if he's able to do anything today. I would like Edgerrin Cooper out there, no doubt about it. But if you're kind of looking at the 49ers injury report too, Nick Bosa hasn't participated. He hasn't practiced in the last, 2 days here. Brock Purdy also has been very limited, it sounds like, in practice. So we'll see if any of those guys will participate in the game coming up on Sunday. George Kittle already said he is. But as our good friend Rob Demovsky noted, big difference in the Niners pass rush when Bosa is in the lineup and without numbers. Obviously, we know that, but here's the drastic difference in numbers. With Bosa, pressure rate of a 33%, sack rate of an 8%. Without Bosa, you're talking about nearly half. Pressure rates is only 18%. Sack rate is only 2%, which ranks last, dead last in the NFL. So that would be a big boost for the Packers offense if they don't have to deal with Bosa in this game. But we'll get game designations coming up later on today after the final day of practice and all that stuff there too. So we've got key matchups. I want your key matchups, keys to victory, your predictions for this game. Start to hit us up with text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912. And we're going to open up the phone lines starting in the next hour or two. So if you'd rather give us a shout, you can call us too, starting in the next hour over here. But if you got your key matchups, your keys to victory, and give me some predictions for this game, let me know. Think about it for a little bit and hit us up. We'll break it all down as we usually do on a Football Friday. Coming up here in just a little bit. Football's not your thing and it's basketball. Well, you got a couple games tonight that you may want to pay attention to. First up would be Badgers taking on UCF. The Badgers hitting the road, taking on UCF. That game, tip time around 4 p.m. I think this is a good test for this Badger basketball team. Get on the road here too, but going to be taking on, I think, a UCF team that could give them some fits over there. But we'll see how it all plays out. Good test for this Badger team that has been off to a really good start, undefeated start so far. We know John Tonje, Blackwell's coming off of his career night with 30 points. So we'll see how the Badgers look on the road to begin this season. Marquette is in action tomorrow as they take on Georgia. But and then tonight, you got a big game between the Bucks and the Pacers. Two teams, identical records to begin the season, both sitting at 6-9. That tip time is going to be around 7 p.m. Is that correct? 7 p.m. I thought it was actually a little bit earlier than that, but nonetheless there. But let me double check that. Yeah, okay, 7 p.m. I was thinking it was 6 p.m. for some reason. 7 p.m. tip time. So coverage will begin about a half hour beforehand, 6:30 on your radio dial. So if you're up at Deer Camp and you want to listen to a little Bucks action, check it out at 105.1 FM and 790 AM. We'll hit up some hoops, talk a little bit about that. Brandon Berg will be joining us. We'll talk some local sports roundup with him. High school state football championships, 4 games, 4 champions crowned yesterday and last night. Stratford grabbing another state championship. Edgar grabbing a state championship. Baldwin Woodville falling just a bit short in their championship game last night against Racine St. Catharines. Rice Lake will be the second game in Division II today. Kickoff will be around 1 p.m. So that's kind of putting the door on the fall prep season after that. So we got that. On the college level, Blue Gold Volleyball, they got an opening round win in their national tournament. So now they go up against familiar foe Whitewater tonight. Tomorrow, you've got UW Stout football in the Culver's Isthmus Bowl going up against Wheaton. But a full slate of local college action going on, including you've got cross country nationals down over in Indiana. We've got Blue Gold hockey going up against River Falls. That's always a fantastic matchup. Coming up this weekend too, men's soccer hosting the Sweet 16, and they're going up against a familiar foe in Platteville. And that's going to be tomorrow at 3:30 on Simpson Field, just off of Claremont Avenue. So if you are not a hunter, if you're not going to be hitting the woods, plenty of local sports action to go take in and such. So we'll do some local sports roundup with our guy, Mr. Brandon Berg, coming up a little bit later on this morning. We got Cream of the Crop. We'll hit that up. We'll throw in some baseball talk here too. No surprise, the MVP is awarded last night in the AL and the National League, and unanimous between Aaron Judge and Ohtani. So again, no big surprise. There was no deflectors, nobody going with Bobby Witt Jr. with the first place vote. Bobby Witt Jr. in fact got he was a unanimous second place vote getter in the American League too. So, but we'll throw a little baseball talk in here too. We got college football, a fantastic game coming up tomorrow for the Big Ten. Ohio State versus Indiana. I got this. I don't think I'm too far off by saying that maybe every Big Ten fan out there or a fan of a Big Ten team is rooting for Indiana that's not an Ohio State fan. But what a moment here potentially for Indiana to, if they could pull this off, if they can get that win tomorrow. I mean, what a huge win for this program, and I mean, really puts themselves in that seat to face Oregon in the Big Ten title game over there too. So, but I know we're paying attention to that. We've got Wisconsin versus Nebraska. We got some good games on the docket for college football. So we'll hit that up here in just a little bit here, just a little bit. So, or a little bit later on, I should say, excuse me. So college football talk coming at you as well. And of course, if you want to hit us up with some texts or a little bit later on, some phone calls, we'll take some phone calls a little bit later on. Getting ready for deer camp and that. I want to hear if you got any like traditions or superstitions or anything like that when it comes to the deer season. share it with the rest of the class. Okay. All right. Share it with the rest of the class throughout the morning here. So let's get things going here this morning. We'll get her started. It is a football Friday, so we'll break it down. Packers, 49ers. And now I think we are really going to see in these next few weeks here if Green Bay truly is a championship caliber, championship contending team. A lot of the national talking heads, one of the questions out there, we touched on a little bit yesterday, but again, it was asked on one of the football programs on the mothership ESPN, who could compete or who's the team that could take down the Lions in the NFC, and Eagles and Packers are the top two teams that are mentioned in there. But, we'll I think this is going to be a stretch run here beginning this weekend. San Francisco, then short week Miami, then Detroit, then Seattle. These next 4 weeks to me will really tell if this is a team that is championship caliber or maybe just all right, playoff caliber. Are they ready to take this next step? Are they ready to take that step and become a championship caliber team? Because I think it's fair too in the first, 10 games, 11 games of the season, 10 games of the season. We haven't quite seen that full-on game, and I know you don't see teams put together a full-on 100% perfect game every single game of the year. Weeks 2 and 3, though, were probably, considering the factors of no Jordan Love and that, was, like, pretty awesome in that. But I think, for a lot of Packers fans, we just and maybe for a lot of outsiders too, just general football people wanna see, okay, let's see Green Bay start to put it all together. And this is maybe now the time to kind of start to put it all together so you can go on that run and grab some momentum before you get into the postseason here. But these next 4 weeks to me, these next 4 weeks are gonna be the buckle up, I think. So let's talk about Packers, San Francisco, how these two teams match up. San Francisco, obviously 5-5 this year, a little bit down. They've been dealing with some injuries, but it's not just injuries. Their play has been a little bit down here too. We're not trying to pick on them or anything, but they've been down here a little bit too. But definitely dealing with some injuries, but they're not out of it yet. And I think if there was one team in the NFC that probably doesn't want the 49ers in the postseason, it might be Green Bay, right? It might be Green Bay. So Green Bay could help themselves out and maybe the rest of the NFC by giving the 49ers a loss and making things a little bit more difficult in that division. But let's get things going here. Take a quick break and then the leadoff to kick things off on the day before the opener eve, if you will. Let's talk some football. Packers, 49ers. Let's break it down. Coming up. Gotta be one of your traditions, right? When you get to the deer season, listen to a little 30 Point Buck song out there, whatever version, first, second. I prefer the second one. Just going back to my youth, the kids' days over there and such. But happy Eve before the opener, everybody. And I know maybe a lot of you starting to pack up and hit the road to deer camp and such. Just best of luck and be safe out there in the woods. And don't forget to send us those photos if you do have any luck, so we can put them up on the photo gallery. Okay, up on our website, talk1051.com. Just click on that outdoors tab. Be safe. Best luck. Share some stories if you got a good story that pops out. If you're heading over to deer camp a little bit later on, you need some supplies. Make sure you go visit our good friends at Hy-Vee here in Eau Claire. Grab some Man Cave Light. Take a photo too. All right. If you're at deer camp and you got some Man Cave Light over there, take a photo of deer camp and your crew with Man Cave Light. Okay, and then we'll post that up over there too. Or grab some Dan Good burgers as well. And if you do get that deer, don't forget you're looking for somewhere to get it processed. Our good friends at Mike's Star Market, they've got extended hours tomorrow, 9 to 6, and then they're going to be open on Sunday from 1 to 4, and then back to normal next Monday through Wednesday. But for this weekend, they've got some extended hours again. You can check out their Facebook page. They've got all the details, options for you to choose from and such. 2238 Heinstead Road on the west side of Eau Claire. Let's get things going here this morning, chatting some Packers, 49ers. We know the history of the 49ers have kind of had the Packers number here as of late, right? I think that's fair to say here. 49ers, the team that knocked out the Packers from the postseason last year, as we usually do. Let's see how each of these teams have racked up and kind of ranked throughout the rest of the NFL. Let's start on the offensive side. This is a team that is, or both these teams are top 5 in terms of total offense in the league, yards per game. So even with the injuries to San Francisco, I've been still putting up some yards. They're second in the entire league in terms of yards per game, averaging 398.9. The only team that's above them, the Baltimore Ravens, nearly 32 more yards per game. They're averaging 430 per game. Packers are 4th, 388.2 yards per game. If we break it down in terms of passing, 49ers are a top 5 team in terms of passing yards per game, 251.1. So that is that's 4th highest in the league. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Green Bay's 9th, 238.2 yards per game. Rushing, Green Bay, slight advantage, but both teams are in the top 10. Green Bay's 4th in the National Football League in terms of running the football, 149.9. 5, 6, 7. San Francisco is 7th. Remember, though, they got Christian McCaffrey back last week. San Francisco still averaging 147.8 yards per game on the ground. In terms of points, they're neck and neck. They're so neck and neck that they're tied. Top 10, both Green Bay and San Francisco offensively for points per game, scoring 25 on average, 25 points per game. So, I mean, offensively, very, very, very similar. Very similar in a lot of rankings and a lot of statistical categories so far this season. Now, how about defensively? Yards per game, yards allowed per game. San Francisco is still a top 10 unit. Just giving up 302.2 yards per game total. Okay, that's top 10. Green Bay's about middle of the pack. They're giving up 329 yards per game defensively. If you break it down in terms of passing yards, San Francisco 2, 4, 6, they're top 10. Give it up 197.2 yards in the air. 197.2 yards in the year. Green Bay, just outside the top 10. They're giving up, or allowing, I should say, 207.5 yards per game. Rushing defense, San Francisco is a top 10 units, giving up 105 yards per game. Green Bay, again, middle of the pack, 119.6. Green Bay, though, has the advantage in terms of points allowed per game. Green Bay is just giving up 21.3 points per game. 2, 4, 6. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10th best in the league in terms of points allowed per game. San Francisco, middle of the pack, 22.2 points per game allowed. So, again, when you kind of look at those rankings, it just kind of gives you an idea of how these teams have performed so far compared to other teams across the area. Offensively, both these teams so similar, so incredibly similar. And in fact, before the season started, like a lot of our listeners, a lot of people even compared, when you look at the Packers offense on paper and you look at the 49ers offense on paper and just kind of how it all played out first couple weeks, saw a lot of similarities. Obviously, LaFleur is a branch from the Shanahan tree, so they run very similar concepts, very similar schemes. But when you kind of looked at it at position-wise, like, okay, Tucker Kraft, George Kittle, kind of remind you. You had at that point Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. You look at Green Bay's receiving core in that, some similarities. So there's a lot of, kind of like, okay, running games, McCaffrey and Jacobs and that. Definitely a lot of similarities over there. And at least offensively, numbers-wise, you're seeing that. You're definitely seeing that. And then defensively, yes, 49ers have a little bit of advantage in terms of limiting teams in yards, both passing and the rushing, but Green Bay has the advantage when it comes to keeping the teams, their opponents, out of the end zone. Another area too where both these teams are similar at is their struggles in the red zone. Okay, we've talked about this for Green Bay. Offensively, both these teams struggling to get the ball in the end zone when they get to the red zone. San Francisco is 26th. They ranked 26th this year in red zone scoring percentage, touchdown only. Green Bay, 27. So San Francisco's got a 48.78%. Green Bay, 48.72%. If you want to break it down a little bit further, is there a difference between if they're playing at home or away? Well, San Francisco is actually a little bit better on the road in the red zone than they are at home. San Francisco's 53.33%. Green Bay actually is better at home, 55.56%. So both teams, if you look at it, be like, oh, okay, so Green Bay's better at home. It's at Lambeau. Maybe better shot to score. San Francisco's actually better on the road when it comes to red zone offense. Kind of interesting with that, but just thought that was kind of curious over there. So that's kind of where everything's at. Kind of some of the main thing. I don't want to break down we could go into yards, per play and all that if we really want to get down into it. We don't have enough time for that here this morning. But where's this at? Oh. Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious. NFL team quarterback sacked per game. Just an interesting stat here. Again, I think it kind of displays on how well and how underrated the Packers offensive line has played this year. Green Bay's second best in terms of quarterbacks sacked per game. Buffalo is the best at 1.2. Green Bay right behind them at a 1.3. San Francisco, 2.1. 2.1. Definitely, I think an advantage for Green Bay heading into this game is they seem to be the healthier team. Not only are they playing a little bit better, but they are, by all accounts, more healthy. Brock Purdy's dealing with a shoulder injury. There's some speculation out there. Could he actually miss this game? If you're a conspiracy theory believer out there, one of the things that was noted yesterday by those who cover the 49ers is that he did not hold his usual media session today No quarterback, or this was from yesterday, no quarterbacks did. And so that's, for some people, kind of wondering, was like, oh, does that mean that maybe Purdy's not going to be starting, or they don't know if he's going to be starting? They don't know which quarterback's going to be able to go out there. Something maybe to see, but also Nick Bosa did not practice for the second straight game. Trent Williams also is a little bit banged up, the left tackle, long left tackle. But Kyle Shanahan did say that both those players will get up to game time to be ready to play. And as we've noted, Rob Demovsky, good nugget here when it comes to Bosa. Big difference. Obviously, when you got a great player like Bosa, there is going to be a difference when he's not on the field in terms of pressure rate and that. With Bosa, pressure rate's 33%, sack rate's 8%, but you take him off the field, the 49ers would rank last, dead last in the NFL with pressure rate, 18%, sack rate, 2%. That's according to ESPN stats and info. So it is a little bit up in the air at this point. You know, when you look at there, I mean, this could be a huge, huge difference in terms of like guys like Bosa is going to play or not in this game. If Brock Purdy's going to play or not. I think Brock Purdy's going to play in this game, and I think Bosa is going to try to play in this game. But they're banged up. They're dinged up. There's no question about it. So, in terms of key matchups in this thing, I'm going to go back to something that we've talked about, and I talked about it in the latest Green and Gold tailgate talk. If Brock Purdy's shoulder is banged up here a little bit, what has the last two offenses going up against Green Bay had success in doing? Quicker passing games, getting the ball out quick. Well, if you got a dinged up quarterback in Brock Purdy, you're probably not going to throw a ton of deep passes. You're going to probably want to get the ball out quick so he doesn't take any unnecessary hits and such. So how does Jeff Hafley, how does this Packers defense slow down, stop a quicker passing game? Because I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan has been looking at, the film and how to attack this Packers defense. And I guarantee you he's probably noticed that Detroit's had success, quicker pass game, using the middle of the field, trying to attack that zone, looking at what Caleb Williams had success doing last week. I don't know if Brock Purdy, they're going to design any runs for him since he's dealing with a shoulder injury, but getting the ball out quick and not having him take any unnecessary hits. How does Jeff Hafley counter that, especially assuming Jaire Alexander does not play in the game on Sunday? Might have to get risky and a little frisky. Might have to put his corners up there and say, all right, we're going to play man. We're going to play a little bump and run. We're going to play aggressive at the line of scrimmage. It's a risk in terms of you don't want guys to burn you, but you may have to take that risk to neutralize, to slow down that quick passing game that San Francisco might employ in this game. But it's also imperative that if San Francisco is going to have some long developing plays, or if the corners do their jobs, and they are going to be aggressive, and they are going to be at that line of scrimmage, you got to generate a pressure. Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark. I want Kenny Clark to take offense to what last week's game was for him. I mean, to me, one of the worst, if not the worst, performances of his career. Just because he didn't do anything against a depleted interior offensive line from Chicago. Take offense to that and dominate the line of scrimmage. If those corners are going to play more aggressive and going to play closer to the line of scrimmage, they've got to get the help from the front seven and able to collapse the pocket, put the pressure on Purdy. And if he is a little bit dinged up, I'm sorry, but it's a football game, and you gotta try to put that pressure on him. Get the pressure on him. Get some quarterback hits on him. Make him feel uncomfortable behind the line of scrimmage. You take him down a couple times. You hit him a couple times. Maybe that shoulder starts to hurt, starts to throb a little bit, and he's starting to get a little bit nervous back there. when he feels a little bit of pressure. You got to set that tone early in the game, too. You got to set that tone. Make him uncomfortable back there if he is a little bit banged up. Hit him a couple times. Make him, think an extra half second or make him feel some imaginary pressure there. If he's a little bit banged up and he gets hit a couple times, let them take themselves out of the quicker passing game. If he feels a little pressure there, he might try to sidestep. He might try to scramble, move around the pocket there a little bit. And that plays into Green Bay's hands. Got to win up front. Got to be physical. Got to be aggressive up there. And we know that the 49ers can still flip and run the football. If you're going to play running back in the Shanahan system, you're going to get opportunities to run. And for the most part, these dudes, they take advantage of those opportunities. Even with McCaffrey missing pretty much the whole season besides last week, San Francisco's had success in running the football even without Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. He's played the last couple of weeks here. We saw him return against Tampa Bay, but last week against Seattle, he had 19 carries for 79 yards over there. Before that, I mean, the 49ers, you had different – it's like a typical Shanahan style. It's like throw in whatever running back you want, and they're going to put up some decent yardages. You go back to his dad in the Broncos days. It was like, whatever running back we'll throw back there. We'll even trade Clint Portis for Champ Bailey because we just know we've got running backs that can go out there. Whether it's Jordan Mason, that's going to give us a bunch of yards, or Isaac is going to go out there. Christian McCaffrey, they'll throw Deebo Samuel in there as well. They got dudes that are going to go in there. But they've got to stop the run. They've got to contain McCaffrey, Mason, whoever's going to be the running back in this game, have to contain him and not allow them to establish that run, to have success running the football, containing the running game, because if they're going to have success running the football, to where you've got to put that extra defender at the box and you're going to have to put up 8 guys in that box, then you employ the play action, and that's going to that's going to make that shorter passing game, or it's going to make that passing game a whole lot easier for a dinged up quarterback of Brock Purdy. If they're going to have success running the football with McCaffrey or Mason or whoever it's going to be, it's going to make that passing game so much easier. Shanahan wants to come in here and run the ball 40 times. If he can get away with running the ball 40 times, he's said this before, and he's done it before against Green Bay, for crying out loud. But if he can come into this game and say, wow, I'm going to sit here and run the ball all day until you stop it, he's going to do it. He wants to do that. So it's up to Jeff Hafley and this Green Bay defense to say, all right, you want to run it 30, 40 times? It's going to be a long day for you. You're not going to have any success. Take offense to this defensive front. Take offense knowing that you're going up against a team that wants to run the ball 30, 35 times, and they feel like they're going to have success running that ball against you 30, 35 times. Take offense to that. Stop it, slow it down, contain it. Don't let them have any success. Okay? I want to see this group step up and dominate the line of scrimmage. Going back to the corners here too, if they are going to play a little bit more aggressive, if they are going to play a little bit more man-to-man and such, these are going to be big-time matchups. I'm operating under the assumption that Jaire will not play. So that means Keyshawn on the outside, Carrington Valentine on the outside, Bullard in as that slot nickel corner. Time to step up. Obviously, no Brandon Ayuk in this game, but Juwan Jennings had himself a nice game last week. He's leading the team in receiving with 588 yards. You got Deebo Samuel, who's in there too. Kind of the the gadget Swiss Army knife player, right? Kind of like Jane Reed in that. But you also have George Kittle, who says he's playing in this game. Yes, he's dealing with a hamstring injury, but there's one guy that I'm not, if he says he's playing, I'm feeling good about, like, he's going to grind it out and such. It's a guy like George Kittle. So, whose responsibility is going to be on George Kittle? Is it going to be Evan Williams? Is it going to be a linebacker? Who's going to be on George Kittle? And how are you going to not let him dominate the game in the passing game? Secondary play coverage is going to be key in this game too. Because if you do have success running the football, or let's say you get out to a lead, a comfortable lead, to where San Francisco now has to throw the ball. They got weapons they can throw to. It's, can these guys, can the secondary, can the linebackers, how are they going to step up in their coverage game? Specifically going up against a guy like George Kittle. And the thing is too, with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and those guys, I want everybody flowing to the ball if they got the ball in their hands. These guys, a lot of them, you can't take down with one guy. They're going to be physical with the football. They've got the football in their hand. They're going to be physical. They're going to take some hits. They're going to dish some hits themselves. I don't want to see soft defense like we saw a little bit last week with some of these players. It just felt like Green Bay was being out physicaled in a lot of areas. I want this defense to come out being physical, because you know you're going to get physical performances from Deebo and George Kittle and Juszczyk. Those guys, they ain't afraid to take some hits and give some hits. I want Green Bay to match that intensity. I want Green Bay to match that physical intensity. Don't back down from it. Don't shy away from it. Get after it. Offensively for Green Bay, I think it still starts with establishing a run with Josh Jacobs, that creative run game, a lot of motions. It's going to be interesting because, yes, LaFleur uses a lot of concepts that Shanahan uses. These guys know each other. They know each other well. They know what each team wants to do offensively. They know this. Okay? So, what does Matt LaFleur, as a game plan or as a game caller, what does he have to do, or what does he have up his sleeve, that maybe catches the 49ers off guard a little bit? Does he have something new? Does he have a few wrinkles up his play call sheet that can catch the 49ers by surprise a little bit? What does he got? And obviously, if, offensively for the Packers, if Bosa is playing, you're watching where 97's at. Where is he at? Whether he's going to be, Zach Tom or going up against Walker. Both those guys, though, I think Green Bay has confidence in Zach Tom and Walker because of how well they have been playing in their pass sets, in their pass protection. I think Green Bay's got a lot of confidence in those guys. Well, both those guys, let's reward your staff, reward your team with the confidence. With that confidence and having a good game and neutralizing that pass rush. Neutralizing a guy like Nick Bosa. Neutralizing a guy like Leonard Floyd. Bosa gets a lot of the attention because he's Bosa. Yes, 7 sacks. We went through the numbers. He is a huge difference maker. One guy who has benefited with Nick Bosa on that field is Leonard Floyd, who's got 4.5 sacks this year. Givens, their defensive tackle's got 3.5. But the one player on that 49ers defense that could wreck a game, that can make some big plays, that you always, always, always have to be aware of where he's at. Number 54, Fred Warner. You have to be aware of where he is at. When you think of a linebacker, middle linebacker, dude who is all over the field, sideline to sideline, making big plays, you think of a guy like Fred Warner. So if I'm Jordan Love, you're going up to that line of scrimmage and you're one of the first things you're looking for is, where is 54? That dude's a playmaker. And he can become a turnover machine too. He can wreck a game. Pay attention to where 54 is at. Pay attention to what Fred Warner is doing in this game, and don't let him completely wreck this game. I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup between him and Josh Jacobs in this game. Josh Jacobs, we know he wants to take a hit too. We know he wants to give a hit. We saw it against the Bears, right? We saw it against the Bears that, Josh Jacobs in that slow-mo was like, come on, telling Jalen Johnson, come on, give me a hit. I want to see – I can't wait to see that matchup between Josh Jacobs and Fred Warner. But Fred Warner, my goodness gracious, that dude is one of the best, if not the best linebackers in the game. Prepare for him. Green Bay's got Jordan Love specifically, turnovers. Fred Warner, got to pay attention to where he's at too. Do not turn the ball over at all if you're the Packers and Jordan Love in this offense. Don't give San Francisco any extra opportunities on the offensive side. Don't turn the ball over. Have these 6, 7, 8-minute drives, keeping San Francisco's offense on the sideline. And if you're the Packers defense, try to get back to getting some turnovers like you were in the early part of the season, those picks and Xavier McKinney and such. Try to create some turnovers. Try to get some extra possessions for your Packers offense. And as always, at this point in time, come away with touchdowns in the red zone. Come away with touchdowns in the red zone. Can't settle for a field goal. Can't settle for a field goal fest. Quick phone call. We got C-Bob on the line before we have to take a quick break because I was rambling on here a little bit this morning. Good morning, C-Bob.
Good morning now, Capitano. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing? A little fired up this morning.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Say, I want everybody in Packer Nation to forget about the records on this game.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco, remember, they started out, they were missing McCaffrey, they were missing Ayuk, they were missing Samuel for a while. Kittle's been banged up. This offense is real now, even without Brandon Ayuk. Juwan Jennings has just burst onto the scene, and they got that Ricky Pearsall back after getting shot in the beginning of the year, if you remember that. I mean, This offense, our defense are going to have their hands full. This is going to be a tough game.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with you, man. You're right. Throw out the records. This almost feels like a little bit of a divisional game just because of these two teams with their familiarity and, what we've seen these two teams, obviously a lot of playoff games between them. I almost feel like it's a division game, even though they're not division teams.
Yeah, same feeling for me, man. We see them all the time. The Shanahan-LaFleur connection. It's like we're playing a mirror image of each other. But you were right earlier, man. We need to see something out of Kenny Clark. We need to get pressure on, and I'm sure it's a little bit of gamesmanship what they got going on here, trying to make us think that Purdy's not going to play. I think Purdy's playing. I don't think there's a question about it. But yeah, I'm excited for this game. I've been fired up listening to you talk about it, and I had to call in. I wanted to say, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did want to say, you touched on it yesterday. Good luck to you and Hudsey, man. That's going to be awesome this weekend. And I say this for all motorcycle riders out there, kill every dang one of them brown things. Get them out of here.
All right. Sounds good, man. Hey, appreciate it, buddy. And we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
You bet. Have a great weekend. Go, Pack, go.
You got her, buddy. There you go. C-Bomb hopping off on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line here. We do got to take a really quick break here. Went a little long, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a football Friday, right? Quick break. We got a couple texts to get to here as well. We'll take your phone calls, more phone calls coming up in the next hour. Just a couple minutes left to the top of the hour here. Let's catch up on a couple of messages. Joe on our video feed. Good hunting eve morning. Deer have been active on the cameras the last couple days. Hey, at least that's somebody. Mine's been pretty quiet. Hopefully that means they're just waiting for the weekend. Trying to stay positive. A couple texts here. Jeremy saying his key to the game is containing Fred Warner, heart of the 49ers defense. He's always making big plays, limit his big plays, and they win the game. It sounds weird saying limited inside linebacker, but control him and control the game, time of possession. I completely agree with you, man. Completely agree with you. Fred Warner. To me, he's the best inside linebacker in the game. G-Man, Pack wins 34-14. Bucky wins 24-17 on Wisconsin. Go Pack, go. Keep those coming. We'll open up the phone lines again coming up in the next hour, but we've got Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine coming up just past 7. We're going to talk to him about Jair Alexander's knee injury. He finally revealed yesterday that it's a torn PCL, which is a ligament in his knee. Now, obviously, it doesn't sound like surgery's on the table, so we'll get the breakdown from Austin here. Could he return this year? It sure sounds like that's still the goal here. So we'll ask him if there's like different severities and all that stuff when it comes to Jair's knee injury. So we'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit. We got Brandon Berg. We'll do some local sports roundup. I know, girls basketball has started off. Winter sports has started off there. We're wrapping up the fall season with state football. Day 2 kicks off here in about 3 hours. Rice Lake's going to be kicking off at about 1 o'clock here. So we'll do some local sports roundup with Brandon, and of course get back to some more football talk. College football got some good games coming up this weekend as well, and then of course we'll get back to some more green and gold talk here. Packers looking for their 8th win in their 11th game of the season. 1 in already, just a couple more to go. Stick around. We've got some news updates, and then we'll kick it off with a little inside the training room coming up in just a few minutes.
technology they need to succeed, $2.3 billion to improve rural healthcare systems, and $6 billion to combat the climate crisis through conservation and protection of our rural lands. Let's look at some of our food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
Are you dealing with any aches and pains this season or an injury that just doesn't seem to heal? You don't have to live your life dealing with pain every single day. With Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you can start to live your life pain-free. Whether you are a professional athlete, weekend warrior, or simply have an aching joint, rest assured that you will receive unsurpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So make your appointment today by visiting cvosm.com and start living that pain-free, healthy life.
It's Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale. Get matched with your perfect bed and save up to $700 on a wide selection of quality mattresses. See store for details.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Casper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Casper Show.
Second hour kicking off right now on this Friday morning, the eve before the opener. We've got Brandon's mom texting in already this morning. Brandon's mom, morning fellas. Clark and Gary have to show up, big pressure, and stop the run. And I'm going to probably keep wearing my 10 jersey. As she noted, the one that you don't have, Brandon. Sick of so-called Packers fans complaining when we win. It's a win. Go Pack Go. They win 27-20. And safe hunting, Casper. Go get the big one. Well, appreciate that, Brandon's mom. Best of luck and safe time for everybody who's going to be going out in the woods this weekend or for the next 9 days. Let's kick off this hour, catching up with our doctor, Dr. Austin Crowe.
Paging Dr. Crowe. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crowe. On the Dan Casper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. Also, he will be heading out to the woods. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
And getting ready for the opener and such. Going to be heading out. Any of your sons going with you, or is it just you solo?
Yep, my oldest. Kellen will be heading out with me. So hopefully we both get lucky, but time will tell.
Exactly. So, well, before you head out to the woods, let's catch up on a couple things here. First, I want to start off with Jair Alexander. He played 10 snaps in the game against Chicago, and then had to pull himself out. We didn't really know what was going on, but he finally revealed it yesterday to the media that he's got a torn PCL. He said he tore it, or it was in that Jacksonville game where he kind of came up limping in the end zone. And then he said he re-aggravated it again in Chicago. But it sounds like he's not done for the year. Now, when you hear a torn knee ligament like that, I think a lot of people just assume you're done for the year. Why is this potentially different for Jair?
Yeah, so the PCL is, the lesser known twin to the ACL. So the ACL is the anterior cruciate ligament, the PCL being the posterior cruciate ligament. So they sit kind of in the cross section, right in the center part of the knee. Cruciate is actually Latin for cross. That's where it gets its name. So they sit right next to each other. There's an important distinction with the PCL. There's a synovial layer that makes the PCL extra articular, meaning outside the joint. So its ability to heal is much, much higher than ACL. So we often are able to treat PCL injuries conservatively, meaning bracing, time, etc. So that being said, high-grade PCLs still often do require reconstruction. So my guess is that his is going to be a grade 1 or grade 2 sprain, which doesn't mean there's tearing. I mean, he can say truthfully, I tore my PCL, and it could be a grade 1 or grade 2 sprain. If it was a complete PCL, so a grade 3, my suspicion is he wouldn't have been trying to to run at the 3-week mark, because that's all it was. I think it was about 3 weeks off. So I think it would be tough for him to come back in that timeline. So my guess is we're talking a high grade partial. So a lot of times what we'll do is exactly what he did is you'll give it some time, give it some rest. They try to run on it and see how it feels, and if it feels okay, they get back out there. But sometimes this kind of thing happens where they feel like they're ready. They try to go full speed, and all of a sudden, like, okay, when I try to cut pivot on it, that ligament's just not solid enough. So my guess is with this re-aggravation, you're probably looking at another 2 to 4 week window. So ultimately, you'd be looking at a total of 4 to 6 weeks off, which is pretty standard for these type of injuries. So whether it's a high-grade MCL or a PCL like this, you're probably looking at something along those lines. So, but as opposed to the ACL, when that's torn, usually it tears completely. The PCL often is a partial. So I think again the distinction is it's likely not a complete, and being the fact that it's outside the joint, it does have a much higher ability to heal. So those are the factors that are coming into play. So I think there's a good chance he avoids surgery, but it still is likely going to be another couple weeks.
So, like, I know when that Jacksonville game in the end zone, and he was running in there and he kind of came up limp and he was limping like that. Would that be because just where the PCL is, would that have almost been like a hyperextension of his knee is how he sprained it or tore it? Because it was just kind of weird. He was running and then all of a sudden he just kind of came up limping over there.
Yeah, I have to say that is not a classic mechanism for injuring the PCL. I mean, traditionally the PCL is injured with a force directly in the front of the knee or, a high impact twisting injury. But often then it's a multi-ligament injury, so PCL plus another ligament. So, but the PCL is what prevents the tibia from shifting backwards. So, I mean, it is possible that you have a weird hyperextension or your leg kind of sticks in the ground, your body goes forward and your tibia stays back. But those are atypical ways to injure. But, weird things do happen. So, but it's certainly when you saw it looked benign enough. You weren't like, wow, that's a bad knee injury. It didn't look like the knee twisted or buckled. It just all of a sudden he was limping, or at least that's from what I remember seeing that clip.
Yeah. So when he says he re-aggravated it, my mind went to, okay, did he re-tear it? Was it healed and it slightly tore or anything like that? Is that basically what he's saying there, or do you think he's just like, or is that not accurate coming from Jair?
I think it could be. I think when you aggravate it suggests that one of two things. One is that it wasn't completely healed. He did kind of quote tear a couple fibers again. It's unlikely he retore everything, so I doubt it restarted the clock back at 0. But it could be that, or the leg just isn't stable and there's pain and swelling associated with that. Often with ligament injuries, there's bone bruises and things along those lines. So you can have some collateral damage that causes symptoms that don't let you get back either. So hard to say for sure. I doubt it was, again, a complete reset of the clock. So I think you're still probably looking at another 2 to 4 weeks and he should be back. But it's hard to say for sure. So maybe he did really. But again, there was no play that it looked like the knee buckled, fell on, went underneath him. It just was kind of like, oh, he's off the field and he's limping. So my hope is for him that it's not anything serious, like a real significant re-injury, just kind of aggravated or the knee wasn't just ready to go.
Staying with that game, Brock Purdy has been limited in practice, and there's some conspiracy theorists out there saying since he didn't do his usual media day yesterday, does that mean he's not going to play? They're just calling it a soreness in his throwing shoulder over there. What would be the biggest concern if it's just, when they say soreness, is it just like bruising? Is it just sore? Or could there be maybe some other stuff going on? There's a little bit gamesmanship perhaps with that shoulder?
All the above. So, when you look at a sore shoulder, it could be darn near anything. Obviously quarterbacks take hits, so you could be talking about it just a direct contusion, mild AC sprain, something along those lines. You also, with throwing, you do open up the possibility of irritation of the rotator cuff, the biceps, things along those lines. And if you remember, this is also the arm that he had surgery on. The surgery was on the elbow, but it's not uncommon when people have an injury to either the elbow or the shoulder that the other joint will occasionally get irritated just because they tend to compensate a little bit. So there could be a little bit of that as well. And he's only a couple years out from that elbow surgery. So it is possible it could be a little bit of all the above, but it's one of those things. It didn't look like he was that limp of a noodle throwing, in the last game. So I don't think he'll miss it, but you never know. When you're talking about starting quarterbacks, sometimes teams are real protective. and say, look, we're going to play the long-term game here, not the short-term game. That being said, the Niners are, I mean, they're not in like must-win situation, but they can't afford to lose a lot more games. So they are playing from behind right now, especially with the expectations coming into the season. So I think that comes into play too, where the team's like, look, maybe we want to sit you in rest, but we can't afford to lose these games. And going against a good opponent like the Packers, they may say, look, we got to roll the dice a little bit here.
Staying within the division, but with the Lions, I don't know if you saw the video the other day, but Aiden Hutchinson was already walking in the pool without a brace after suffering that gruesome leg injury. Is that kind of a typical timeline for that? Because, I mean, when we see that injury and we hear about it, we think it's like, oh, man, that's going to be a while. Dude's already walking in a pool without a brace. Is that typical for that type of injury?
It actually is. I know it's pretty amazing. So the fracture like that, and I think we touched on this, is it looks horrific. But in a lot of ways, this is going to heal more predictably and more reliably than a lot of other knee injuries or ankle injuries, because ligament-based ones just take a lot longer. So I can almost guarantee he had a rod put in the leg. So they make a little incision right above the knee, and we slide a titanium rod inside the bone and then lock it with screws above and below the break. And depending on the fracture pattern, it's often very stable. So the rod kind of fills up the inner part, so the bone, the ends basically bump against each other. So we allow people to walk very early. So there are tibia fractures. We'll rod them, and right off the bat, we let them put full weight on it. And so now it's going to hurt, so they're not going to be walking normally. And certainly he's not a small guy, so it's going to be a lot of stress going through there. But yeah, to be putting some weight on at this point, not surprising at all. I expect him to bounce back completely from this injury and do great, unless there was some other associated injury that we don't know about. But it's unlikely that looks like it's going to be a nice, solid tib-fib fracture. Again, they look horrific. Not to say it's fun to go through that, so anyone out there who has knows it's not fun, but they usually heal pretty dang well.
Interesting. And then staying with the Lions, one of their linebackers, Alex Anzalone, broke his forearm. Dan Campbell said about 6 to 8 weeks. I guess my question is, because we've talked a lot about with broken bones, is the forearm, one of those locations where there's good blood supply so that he could heal up and return for this year?
Yeah, I think so. I think it wouldn't shock me. So I'm sure he had those both plated. Yes, the upper extremity has excellent blood supply, and those bones heal very predictably. So get that plated. And then the nice thing about that, as opposed to like a tibia fracture, for example, it's hard to really brace and support that. The forearm, he could go back in a club. So, I mean, I'm trying to think. It was one of the linebackers, I want to say it was for the Panthers in the Super Bowl, I don't know, 10 years ago. He had a forearm fracture maybe 2 to 4 weeks before had it plated, and he played with a club on. I can't remember who that was.
Was that Thomas Davis?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
And so you can sometimes do that where you can plate it and support it. Now, you have to wait for the incision heal, so they can't go immediately. But sometimes these guys are back like in 2 to 4 weeks playing with cast. Now, they may, depending on where it is, they may play a little bit more slow than that. And especially with how well the Lions are doing, they may say, look, we want you back for the playoff push. But I do expect him to be back at some point this season with some kind of brace on that arm.
Going to your team, he returned just a little bit ago, but how impressive was it to see TJ Hawkinson, who missed a ton of time, obviously coming back with a knee injury, but it seemed like he picked up where he left off. Like he didn't seem like he was limited or anything like that.
Yeah, no, he's done well. He took a couple hits low to that leg, and one time he kind of popped up slowly, and I think it was just the way he was getting up, and everyone's holding their breath. But,
yeah.
I mean, he's coming back strong, and he's going to be a much-needed weapon for us. I mean, I think that for us, we obviously have a pretty darn good receiving core, but anytime you can have the tight end open up the middle of the field and get mismatches, he is one of the best in the business at his position. And so hopefully that's going to be something that can kind of keep our offense humming. We've struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks on the offensive side of the ball. Our defense is woken back up, but if we can get both sides of the ball playing, I think we're going to be a pretty solid team. So I think he's going to be one of those key pieces. And you see guys come back from a big knee injury like that, it's always happy to see him go back. And again, I think once you kind of get to the spot where the knee feels good and they start trusting it, you can hopefully get back to the pre-injury form or close to it.
This guy he's not in our division anymore, but I saw somebody talking about this. Our good friend Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
I saw somebody, I can't remember. It was Boomer Esiason. That just seems purely speculative from a radio. I know he used to play quarterback in that, but I mean, a hamstring injury, left hamstring injury because he's not putting any weight on there. That I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, it certainly could be at his age. I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, I think if you look at what Tom Brady's done, he's kind of like ruined the quarterback position for so many, because everyone's like, yeah, no, you can play till you're 40. Like that historically has almost never happened. I mean, there's usually a drop off, and there's a multiple reasons that happens, but one of them is the body just doesn't bounce back. I mean, those guys are out there putting their body on the line. Quarterbacks take big hits. In the NFL now, quarterbacks often have to be mobile, so they're trying to run away from elite athletes, and their body doesn't hold up real well. So I think there is that element of like maybe he does have a little tweak to a hammy, maybe he does. Although usually they'll disclose that. I mean, they're supposed to.
Right.
So it's hard to say for sure, but maybe it's something mild and he doesn't want to talk about it. He still is. I mean, I know he was claiming he was going to come back in a week from his Achilles, but he is still one season away from a major tendon injury. So that certainly could be playing a role. And again, he is in the spring chicken, right? He is long in the tooth, where there are a lot of NFL quarterbacks whose careers have kind of peaked. And certainly that could be the case as well. So I'm not about to say he's washed up. Every once in a while you see him make a throw and you say, okay, that's the Aaron Rodgers I know. So I think he still has something left in the tank, but to think that he was, peak MVP type, caliber right now, he's not. He's just not, and I don't think he's going to get back to there. But does he have enough to do a push to the playoffs? That may be asking a lot, but maybe. But he certainly doesn't look like he was, again, peak form, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But could it be something like a hamstring? Yeah, I mean, I guess it could, but I agree that's completely speculation.
All right, last question, and I'm only going to ask this because I've got Brandon who's wearing his Vikings hoodie sitting across from me, and I got to ask it to you to get your guys' reaction. I got to saw somebody throw this out there. This kid's theory. All right, Sam Darnold might have played with a big contract. He might be out gone next year with a big contract if JJ McCarthy's not ready. Aaron Rodgers suits up for a year for Minnesota. Your reaction?
Well, that would it's not outside the realm of possibilities. I mean, I think there could be a 1-year stopgap in there. Would he be a candidate for it? Possibly. I think there's always a difference. I mean, in my generation, we've grown up with playing the Green Bay Packers, who have always had elite quarterback play. So you guys obviously went from Favre straight to Rodgers, and I always viewed Favre a little differently. I think a lot of people did. I mean, you begrudgingly respected him. I think a lot of the Minnesota fan base just doesn't care for Rodgers. So I think that'd be a tougher pill to swallow, just for all the diva things that he represents. It just doesn't sit well with Midwest people. I think that's one of the reasons Rodgers maybe wasn't quite as beloved. I'm not saying he wasn't. He was obviously a great quarterback for you guys for a long time, but I think it would be just a little harder for me to see him as opposed to what Favre did. But could it happen? I mean, if you look at the path, it's obviously a little ironic. It's, to the Jets, to the Vikings. I mean, that'd be obviously the exact same path that Favre took. So I guess I don't know if I'd love it, but I get you're right. At this point, if Darnold keeps playing this way, he's going to expect a big contract. I don't think we want to do that and have JJ, who's the heir apparent, in waiting in wings. So I mean, there may have to be a stopgap. So it's a possibility, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just say we'll say Brandon was not in favor of that. So we'll put it.
I'd say I lean that way too.
Well, hey, we appreciate it, man. We're off next week too for next Friday, so I want to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving. Best of luck to you and your son out in the woods. Keep us posted. Appreciate the time as always, buddy, and we'll catch up soon. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck to you and all the other hunters. Stay safe out there.
Absolutely. He's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. Take a quick break. We'll go from Austin to Brandenburg. He's coming up here in just like 2 minutes.
games over the course of that day, so it doesn't really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's going to be weird. I'll be honest. It's
It
going to
is,
be weird.
it is.
So, but we'll get over it. We'll get fine. I just don't know if Wisconsin's going to win any of these final two games coming up here. So, speaking of which, what did you think about the Phil Longo firing? Did it surprise you that it actually happened? Did you agree with it? What, is it he taking the fall for Brian Locke at this point? I mean,
I was surprised in the timing.
Yeah.
If you had told me it would have happened after the year, I don't think I would have been surprised.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the timing, to me, says that there is at least a little bit of heat on Luke Fickell. Even if I don't think even if they lost the last 2 games, he would get fired.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he understands that there's some heat on him. So he kind of wanted to do something to see if it can maybe spark to grab a win or two, and then, kind of go from there. But you go into the offseason with the idea that, if you don't get the next one right, you're not going to get a third one. Because
Right.
if this happens again, then he won't have a job, a year or two down the line.
So would you like to see Fickell, because there's names being floated out there. Would you like to see him bring somebody in that's, like let's just say a Wisconsin guy, or somebody that worked with him maybe in Cincinnati? Because Phil Longo was not, a guy he brought over from
Right. He was
Cincinnati.
kind of someone off his tree, so to speak.
So would you rather see Fickell go the Wisconsin route? I'm not saying necessarily all old school, or somebody, like the Notre Dame quarterback coach who,
Gino Guidugli.
Yeah, somebody like that who, was with Fickell at Cincinnati, was actually an offensive coordinator for him for a year at Cincinnati.
Right. Was set to be on the Wisconsin staff, but then he got a bigger job with Notre Dame, right after he got hired with Wisconsin. So,
Yep.
I don't know, because obviously, especially, the way this last year plus has gone, I think a lot of Badger fans have kind of looked longingly at, the success they've had at times offensively with their style. It's very, it was, especially these days, it was a very unique style. You think of someone like Iowa, that was, first and foremost, you're running the ball, your 2 tight ends, your fullback. There is something to be said about that. And that is, I think it's something that, a lot of Badger fans grew to appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who that would be, I don't know, because there's not exactly a ton of people kind of trained in that skill set.
Right.
But people also kind of gloss over the fact that the last few years, of the Badgers doing that under Paul Chryst was not good at all.
Right.
It struggled. That's the reason he got fired. I mean, they were, you can, kind of wax longingly for certain times when things worked out really well, but when you were doing the same thing and it wasn't working well at all, that kind of gets, glossed over. But that's just when people are trying to be nostalgic. I mean, that happens with anything.
Right.
So I don't know if I have a firm kind of thought with it one way or the other. It's just to me, the thing is, whatever direction you go, number one, there's going to be an impact when it comes to recruiting and transfers.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were certain people that, certain recruits or transfers that came in here with the idea of playing in Phil Longo's offense. And now that that's not here, I mean, we won't know that until after the Minnesota game, when the transfer window or the transfer portal opens. So we see specifically who's bopping out, because, it's not what they signed up for.
Right. I know we had the freshman redshirt
Cole Crew.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know if that might have been either way.
Right. The one thing too that I'm really curious about is, because I just saw Ohio State, say it's in Wisconsin, Chris McIntosh said a couple weeks ago, but with the paying the athletes and the fact that, like Ohio State said the other day, they're going to have 150 fewer athletes. Are we going to see now where teams have to play their freshmen earlier because just the numbers aren't going to be quite there?
It could be. And something I had seen, and I'm trying to remember who brought it up, but I thought that was a really interesting point, that as much as some people, and you can make the point that, the whole NIL era and stuff has kind of maybe created more haves and have-nots in college football. At the same time, I think you can also make the case that it's done just the opposite, because now kids kind of have 2 schools of thought. You can go somewhere and get a good chunk of money, but if you're at a bigger school, you're probably not going to play right away.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go to, say like in Indiana prior to this year, obviously becoming what they are, for example, and you're going to get the chance to play early, and maybe that can help you build your kind of NIL portfolio because you can show, hey, I'm a good player. I should get paid.
Right.
I should be getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's I mean, that there's just so much kind of with the whole NIL era that we're kind of learning as we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that even 3-4 years from now, it's going to look drastically different than it does right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's something we're going to have to keep an eye out on for, offensively.
Right.
How does this impact some of those people that came in? If you're a receiver and you came in and suddenly they're going to more of a, I can't even say pro style offense, but you know what I mean? Like a more two back, under center offense that doesn't maybe have receivers on the field as much. If you're a receiver, you may use it as an opportunity to kind of, take your talents elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, too, when we get to, I totally agree. Like, this is a job-saving hire for Luke Fickell coming up here. But at the same time, you look at their schedule next year, and it's not any easier.
No, it's tough. So,
you still got Alabama next year. You still got Michigan at Alabama, at Michigan, at Indiana, at Oregon. Iowa's coming, Ohio State's coming over too. So I mean, record-wise, it might not even be better next year.
Right.
At this point, Washington throwing there just because you don't know what's
you don't know, but they're
no
schlub.
Right. So, it's just I think we'll be able to tell if there's improvement, right?
I think
next
so.
year, just like
I think so. And there haven't been very many times in these first 23 games where Phil Longo was going to run the show of the offense where the team, I think, truly felt explosive.
Mm-hmm.
It did feel like it in the bowl game last year against LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And but even like games they've won, and it just hasn't been where you felt like, oh, okay, like maybe I guess the Rutgers game, but Rutgers isn't a great team,
right?
Like this is we talked about it before, but this is a team that's still searching for its program, it's kind of big win. Like that
signature win.
That signature win for Luke Fickell, and almost came last week. I mean, that certainly would have been it. But it just, I don't know. It just kind of felt like maybe Longo and Fickell weren't ever fully on the same page.
Well, it was like because we talked to RJ Cardinal on Tuesday down in Madison, and like he mentioned too, like that comment that Phil Longo said in one of his pressers, "I'm just here to please Luke Fickell,"
and that was back earlier in the year,
right? And it was just kind of a weird, comment.
And when Phil Longo was hired, I liked it not just because it was a splashy hire, but also because like I've said this on here before that Phil Longo's air raid was had run significance.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at
It's not the air raid that people think.
It's not the Mike Leach raid. Like there's different ways to do it. It's not Mike Leach where he's running 4 times a game.
Right.
When he was at North Carolina, there was a year where he had, I think, 2 1,000-yard rushers. I think it was Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, who both went to play in the NFL.
Yep.
Like there were times, but at the same time, he also had really good quarterback play, and that hasn't helped.
Right.
And at this point, there's obviously there's going to be the question out there of obviously Braden Locke starting this week. Like people are going to be frustrated about that, and I will say, and I've been critical of Braden Locke.
I was going to say, you have been.
But I will say, in the defense of not necessarily Braden Locke, but the team, like, if you go to Mabry Matoyer, I believe he's one more appearance away from kind of not being able to redshirt.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, like, on the one hand, you want to see what the freshman can do for 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, is it worth it? Is there a big difference between 7-5, 6, and 6-5 and 7?
Yeah.
There is only so many buttons you could push, and maybe this was the button. I'm not saying they fired Longo instead of starting Matoyer, but maybe that's the button you can push instead.
If they only had, say, 3 wins at this point, where what is that different then?
Maybe
where you don't you're 1 win away from being bowl eligible,
right? And that's you have one of the longest streaks in the country. I think it's 23 years in a row where you've played a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these are 2. Going to be, these are 2 matchups this week in Nebraska, next week against Minnesota. They're very evenly matched. They could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
They're all teams kind of in a similar spot. I think all 3 teams are 5-5.
Is it 5-5 or Minnesota already have 6 wins?
Minnesota, you have to look. Minnesota's either 5-5 or 6-4, but I thought they were 5-5.
I'll have to, let me load it
up
here.
It's kind of crazy how, at this point, how similar it's gone for Wisconsin and Nebraska.
Mhm.
At the, last year they both made the big splashy hires. They had
So 6-4.
they
Go
are
for
6-4.
that.
Okay,
Yep.
so Minnesota's bowl eligible.
Yep.
So okay, but this year they both fired their offensive coordinator. They're kind of a bit in limbo. I mean, maybe a little bit not quite where they wanted to be at this point.
Mhm.
Now, Nebraska has the hotshot freshman quarterback in Dylan Raiola, so that's a little bit different.
Right.
But I mean, these are two games. They're rivalry games. They're trophy games. Like these are games that this time last year Wisconsin was in the spot and they found a way to win both those games.
Mhm.
It wasn't pretty, but they did it.
Right.
They got to 7-5. Like that's kind of the challenge now. And I am curious to see how the offense looks because they're not going to change it. They're not going to come out and be drastically different. You just can't change that in the course of the year.
Right.
But you can be different within what you do.
Mhm.
And it just kind of felt like long ago, for whatever reason, like they just were never in sync.
Mhm.
And maybe you'll have different play callers. Like for whatever reason, maybe they just hit on something that works better. Be it more success in the run game, passing concepts that work for Braden Locke, like whatever it is.
Mhm.
You can't just go out there and do the exact same thing because you have a pretty decent sample size that says that doesn't work.
Almost feels like it would be similar to how the Chicago prepared.
Kind of.
New offensive coordinator, young quarterback.
Right.
What do you do to get him some confidence going?
Right.
Shorter,
right.
quicker passing.
And then, kind of what we said last week, shorter, quicker passes, getting help from the run game. Those are two things Chicago was able to have some success with last weekend.
Mhm.
It went down to the final play with them against Green Bay. So
Right.
that's kind of what you have to do. You still have to mix in some deep shots, but you have to, I think it's important to get Locke comfortable early
Mhm.
because that he's feeling it too. He understands the situation. Like, the offense, when the offensive coordinator gets fired at any level, like everyone else on the offense always kind of feels it. Like, obviously that coach isn't here anymore because of us, because of what we have not been able to do.
Mhm.
So I am very interested to see how this looks. Is it more of a commitment to the run game? Is a guy like Cade Yakimelli, who averages close to 8 yards a carry, but hasn't really been involved in the game more recently, does he get more run? It's been more Tawi Walker and the two freshman running backs.
Mhm.
Do they find a way to, kind of work that in there? Is there, what does it look like?
Mhm.
That's going to be very interesting to me to see if you can kind of spring something loose here.
I know you're not going to be going hunting, but you got to be looking at this slate of games this weekend. There's some good match. Obviously, Indiana or Ohio State.
There is.
Your Army versus Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah, Saturday night. So this is a set of games that, I'm for the first time in a bit, I've got a Saturday kind of free,
Mhm.
and I'm looking forward to it.
Right. I mean, there's even Colorado at Kansas playing.
Yeah, Kansas,
and that's at Arrowhead for crying out loud.
Yeah, Kansas picked up the big win here recently.
BYU at Arizona State.
BYU need to bounce back after their loss. No, there's some good ones tomorrow, and
they're nice and spread out for you too. How about that?
They are. And the thing too is, there's only like 2 real full college football Saturdays left.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
weekend, next weekend, and then you got the the conference championship games, and then the playoffs,
Right.
the postseason, I should say.
Mhm.
So we're kind of getting down to it.
Exactly.
So this year, are we going to have to do our bowl picks earlier because of the expanded playoff?
I think so. Right. So before Festivus, right?
Yeah, because we always did. I feel like we did like the week before because it was always like the middle of.
Right. Yeah.
We might have to hustle. Yeah.
Try to figure out something how to get listeners involved with the picks too.
Yeah, I might have to set up another bowl pick 'em.
Yeah.
But this year, I guess I can't do confidence points because
you cheater.
Confidence points is good. How much faith do you have in somebody winning the Idaho Famous Potatoes Bowl?
Cheater.
No.
Cheater.
But if that's not what the people want, then I won't do it. But
I forgot we did that.
No,
That's right.
that was the whole thing. You were not happy with
it
me
was
about
not because I think I was supposed to just straight up picks.
Oh yeah, I think you had the picks right. You had more picks right, but I'm a believer in confidence points.
Oh boy, yeah. I will admit I was not paying attention to confidence points. I was just going straight up pick-ups.
Okay.
But then I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Right. Why is this person that's got 2 fewer right than me ahead of me? Well,
right. By a lot too.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing here? Oh, Brandon's weird. He's in first right now.
Yeah.
So no, I forgot we did it. Yeah, we'll do that again.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. If you're not a Hunter, and you're a college football fan. You know what? There's two teams I'm really pulling for outside the Wisconsin one: Indiana and Army.
Yeah.
Those are the two teams I'm pulling for this weekend to
Right,
pull off
right.
wins.
Because that would upset the apple cart because suddenly you get Notre Dame with 2 losses. One of them to Northern Illinois, who does not have a great record.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Like Oregon's already clinched. So if Indiana beats Ohio State, do they clinch? Because Ohio State would have 2 losses then.
I don't know. That's a good question because Indiana would be unbeaten, and they are finishing with Purdue in the battle for the old Oaken bucket. By the way, one of these weeks for top 5, we got to do college football rivalry trophies. I think that'd be a good one.
We should do that right before.
Maybe next week. Or no, 2 weeks.
Next week. Yeah, 2 weeks. We'll do 2 weeks.
We'll do 2 weeks.
Yep.
Because then we'll be fresh off a lot of those.
Yep.
But
so remember that.
Okay, I will try to remember that. But yeah, I mean that would and
really upset.
And that's it. Indiana's in that spot now where, I've kind of mentioned this before with Kirk Cignetti, where he's still in that spot where like it's fun and it's fresh. Like if they're really good 3 years from now, it might start to get a little annoying.
Yep.
But right now, because it's so new and because it's a non-traditional power. It's Indiana.
Yep.
You're expecting them more for basketball than for football.
Exactly.
But it's fun to see a different team in there. And to be honest, it's just kind of another example of showing Wisconsin like it's possible.
Right.
You could be that team. They've been that team in the past.
As Kevin Garnett once famously said, anything is possible.
Right. But you got to get your ducks in a row. And that's, these last 2 games. And for those, those guys that are calling the plays, like they kind of understand, like if they go out here and they just blow the doors off, you'd think there'd have to be opportunity where maybe one of those guys could ascend.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's take a quick break. We'll finish up second hour. Let's do some local sports roundup, just to catch up on some stuff over here. So we'll get to that. We'll get back to some more football talk coming up in the 8 o'clock hour as we are inching closer and closer and closer. Yes, C-Bomb. Top 5 rival trophies. Write that down. Coming up December 23rd, dude. That's like a month now. Think about it. It's just like a month and a day.
Yeah.
Festivus, our annual Festivus show. It's a Monday. We're going to be over at VFW Post 305. The fine folks over at the VFW Post 305 is allowing us to come over and do the program there for our Festivus episode. So Brandon's going to be over there too, even though it is a Monday. And plus, we got Monday Night Football with Packers Saints. It should be a lot of fun over there. So.
And honestly, it falls like we've always enjoyed because for the last few years, it's kind of fallen on that Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But this way it works, I would argue, better because most people are going to have that week off, or at least much of that week off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Monday. That Monday, it's Christmas Eve. So if you still got a little last minute shopping to do, you can swing by and visit us.
Yep.
Taco omelet, I've heard about a lot from you, so I got to try that.
Yep, exactly. Maybe we'll get a little C-Bomb to make a stop if he's not doing anything. So I'm sure
we got to see if we can get one of those super rare Mondays with me and JC in the EC.
Well, try to get him to go. He's like, we can't golf that day, probably.
In theory, So I'll tell you what. I'll start bugging him about it.
You do it because he listens to you more than apparently me. So just throwing that out there. But yeah, well, that should be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it.
I think so.
Yep.
I think so.
Airing of grievance. What, you were recruiting people at the?
I was recruiting
at the high school.
Friends of mine.
Yeah.
At the last Saturday, I went with some friends to the A-player state championship game.
Right.
In Wisconsin Rapids. And I was just talking to them about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you sent me a text. You're like, you're recruiting people to come for festivals.
And some friends of mine that were interested. So
I'll bring the metal pole, so we'll have one over there. I don't know if they'll allow us. Do we have to set up a little ring for the feats of strength?
Ooh,
C-Bomb versus Surveyor Sam. We'll do those two for the feats.
It's too bad we didn't know anyone that was like a big Saints fan because that would have been.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
That would have been That would have been a good like Packers Eagles game because then we got like Philly fan Dave in the mix.
Yeah, that would have been a good one. Or can you imagine if it was like a Vikings one too? That would have been really.
Well, we missed it
by a week.
Wow, we would have missed it by a week. Could have like you and I grappling in the ring. That would have been good for anybody.
No, I would have gone all in though. I might have worn a singlet and everything. Just
complete with like entrance music and just been like. Rrr.
I'd run in like the Ultimate Warrior,
just running around the bar at like 6:30 in the morning,
and then I'd be huffing and puffing after.
There'd be some guys at the end of the bar that don't know us. Like, what are they doing?
It's Festivus, man. Come on, it's Festivus with the rest of us. Looking for that has. I'm not trying to set the bar too high.
Ooh,
but it has the makings of being our best Festivus ever.
Because I'm trying to think of
There was a one year where our sister station was also having a Christmas party, so we were in here doing ours, and people kept coming in.
That's right. That was fun.
That was a fun one. So
yeah, 2 years ago we made the best of it when it was so darn cold.
Yeah, because we were going to be somewhere else, and then it was just like
it didn't. No,
we don't want people driving.
No, because it was like 38 below the wind chill. Like I remember even making that drive. Like it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But this year,
oh yeah,
let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. So. Unless we do have a Saints fan that's listening.
If you're a Saints fan and you want to...
I'm already nominating him. C-Bomb's going to be representing the green and gold for the feats of strength. So if we got a Saints fan, let us know. We'll even the playing field somehow. Right?
You got to try to find a way to get those big, like, inflatable sumo suits.
The Express have some.
Hey!
Yeah.
Express.
Craig,
come on. Yeah. Can we borrow those?
Yeah. Can we borrow? Come on, man. We got a few minutes. Let's do some local sports roundup because we're in that transition phase right now, right?
We are. I mean, we've got some winter stuff. Girls basketball games have gotten going this week.
Yep.
Next week you'll see a little bit more in the way of like boys swimming, and a couple of boys teams will be out there. You got some hockey teams that'll get going next week. But really, it's always that week after Thanksgiving when stuff really shifts into overdrive for the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know you weren't covering it, but Owen Withey did win the 8-man state championship.
Correct.
So
defeated Lena St. Thomas Aquinas. So congratulations, Coach Lauby and that staff.
Now I saw you tweet this. Is he the first?
I think so.
To win
I believe he would be the first coach in state history to win state championships in both 11 and 8-player football. Because he had, I believe, 3 of them from 11-player, including most recently 2014.
Okay.
And then now, obviously, he's got one in 8-player. And also, saw yesterday he was named the Green Bay Packers Coach of the Week.
Isn't it? I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was a few years ago. That whole issue, the filing error, shall we say?
Yeah. There was
you
the
know?
issue where they were ineligible for the playoffs in 2022, I believe it was.
Mhm.
So
And now they've got a
a
championship.
couple years later, they've got another gold ball for their trophy case. So congrats to the Blackhawks.
Mhm.
Great year of football, and
Yep.
yeah, I mean, obviously the rest of football gets done today. We had a busy day yesterday for not teams, I guess, kind of from the area, but not from the area.
Mhm.
Obviously, with Edgar winning, Stratford winning.
Stratford, I got to bring this up. We talk about programs quite a bit, and the success that they have that Stratford football. I mean, obviously with wrestling and such too, but was it 10 state titles now that they've got for football? I think for Stratford right now. I mean, you want to talk about some
Yeah, they're at 10. I
insane
think Edgar's
success.
9. Yeah, I mean, those are. I mean, it's what we know. Like
Mhm.
at this point, it's not a surprise. They moved up because of the success factor this year. They moved up from D6 to D5. What
Yep.
they do? They went out and won.
Yep.
I mean, that's so they're the Marywood. I was talking with somebody about this last night, but it was a pretty good fall for football for that stretch along Highway 29 when you factor in Ownwithy,
Yep.
Edgar, Stratford, DC Everest over in Schofield, Abbotsford had a solid year. Like it just
Stanley Boyd was up in
Stanley
there too.
Boyd,
Yep.
But yeah, then you fast. And then last night, Bowling Woodville falling in a tough
Very
battle,
tight one.
a good battle to Racine St. Catharines. So
Mhm.
today, obviously the big one people in the area can be keeping an eye on is Rice Lake.
Yep. D2, they kick off at 1 p.m.
Yep, they'll be
So-
this afternoon. That'll be a game you'll be able to find it and watch it. So
Mhm.
but yeah, we got D3, D2, D1 today.
Mhm.
Rice Lake, they were defending Division 3 champions. They move up and they got Slinger. They got
Mhm.
the Owls.
The Owls.
Mm.
That should be a good one.
Should be.
So we got that. Obviously, Brandon's covering a lot of hoops, getting some previews up at
Oh, yeah.
triple.com.
Putting up some mileage today or
Mhm.
this week, and that's usually what it is around this time of year. So
Yep.
moving around, seeing the teams, and
College wise, too, there's a lot going on for our WIAC teams here. So Blue Gold Volleyball picking up a win, first round in the national tournament yesterday against Northwestern St. Paul. Tonight, going up against the familiar foe Whitewater, as they hope to continue to advance through the national tournament. We've got nationals for cross country. The men's team as a whole for the Blue Golds are there. Individual for the women's side. Stout football in the Culver's Isthmus Bowl going up against Wheaton tomorrow. Men's soccer for Blue Golds, Sweet 16. They're hosting again, so they're hoping to advance to the Final Four. Every year, they've gotten a little bit better. So last year they were in the Sweet 16. They're going up against familiar foe Platteville,
right.
so that should be a good one there too. So again, if you're not a hunter, you got a lot of local stuff to be paying attention
Right,
to and
yeah.
what following along over there too. So
You can keep yourself very busy.
absolutely. So, but best of luck to the Blue Golds, 2 stout football over there too. What a fantastic
Coach
season.
Birmingham, yeah. I mean, too. We talked about it a little bit last week, but to enter that last week of the regular season with a chance to win the conference championship, ultimately it didn't work out. But still,
Mhm.
I mean, it's so tough to make headway in that conference, and Stout's been able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's from preseason. That's why we don't always believe the preseason polls and
Yeah.
expectations and that too, because they blew them out of the water over there.
You got
but-
to play.
Yep. So, best of luck to our collegiate athletes. We're kind of obviously with basketball for D3 that's already gotten some games in there and such, and hockey. I know Blue Gold women's hockey is going up against River Falls, which is always a great
It's
battle.
always a battle. River Falls got a great history of women's hockey there.
Mm-hmm. So that's always going to be a good one coming up this weekend too. So transitioning from prep fall to winter, football kind of wraps it up, right, for the fall season.
Yeah, football is the last one from the fall. We had girls swimming state last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, football always kind of wraps it up. And then, we're full speed in the winter.
All right. That's your local sports roundup for this morning. All right. Shot clock's going to cut us off. See, called it right there. We're going to kick it off with some cream of the crop in the next hour. Then we'll get back to some more football talk. Packers, 49ers. Who do you guys got? Colt? No.
Bears.
Bears. That's right.
Bears.
Go Bears.
Clip that. Somebody clip that.
2 in, 1 more to go. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Second hour kicking off right now on this Friday morning of the eve before the opener. Best of luck to everybody who maybe already starting to head out to deer camp and getting set for the next 9 days or so. Be safe. Best of luck. And don't forget to send us your photos if you have any luck out there too. So, yeah, if you got any good traditions you want to share or superstitions, send them over to share with the rest of the class. Phone lines open 715-830-1912. If you want to text us or give us a shout, that number works both ways. Let's kick off the third hour with a little cream of the crop, shall we? Cream of the crop to kick it off. All right, Brandon. Honor is yours, sir.
All right. Well, I'm gonna be pretty obvious with this one. I'm going Pat Murphy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, manager of the year. Like, it is funny to me that he won it and Craig Counsell never did with the Brewers, given obviously all the success Counsell had and all the years where he probably. I'd like to look it up how many times he finished second.
Yeah.
But that's just funny to me. And it was, I mean, I think it was 27 of the 31st place votes. Like it was landslide.
Yeah, it wasn't close.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, they vote on this by the end of the regular season. So, the playoff success for Mr. Mendoza from the Mets doesn't go into it. It's a regular season award.
Right.
So, but to be able to do that, I mean, says a lot. And then, I mean, you look, I think 3 different Brewers got MVP votes.
Oh.
Contreras was 5th, I believe, overall, and then Adames and Churio got a 10th place vote from somebody because you vote 1st through 10th, and then there's a point.
You like that, by the way?
I kind of do.
Just gives other people recognition, maybe
right.
a little bit. So
right.
I mean, it was unanimous.
Yeah, I mean,
Judge and Ohtani won,
so that was never an issue. But no, I don't mind that because once you get a little bit further down, you kind of see how people value. Okay, who was important. So, but yeah, just Pat Murphy, what he was able to do in year one. Hopefully setting this table for good things coming up here, but we'll see.
Yeah. I really don't know what to expect coming up in this offseason and the next Brewer season for this division as a whole. So it was, I'm glad it worked out that way because I think we would, because even last year, I think there was a little bit surprised that Counsell didn't win it. Was it Skip Schumacher won it? I think.
Yeah, with the Marlins.
Yeah. There was because again, it was another solid year for the Brewers, kind of surpassed expectations. Counsell finished second. But yeah, you're right. There's a little needling there. And the thing is too, I guarantee you, Counsell probably reached out to Murphy to congratulate 100%.
Yep, 100%.
It's,
and even Counsell kind of having the dry sense of humor he does, I'm sure he probably maybe even made a joke about it to Murphy, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. We can have fun with it because we're the fans of this, but I guarantee you those two they're good.
Right.
They're
100%.
They're absolutely.
And even going back a year, like I was, Pat Murphy was kind of the guy that they were looking at, you kind of figured would get the job. But, I remember my list, he wasn't necessarily at the top of it, but it wasn't because I thought he would be bad at that. It's just that, at the time I felt it was, would that really change much? But he changed a fair amount. So I was wrong in that aspect.
Yeah. My cream of the crop. I'm going to go. I haven't read this all yet here, but this looks fantastic. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I love it when people do this. So Ryan McGee from ESPN.com, senior writer. You just hit the mic.
I did. I was going to itch my nose / make sure I don't sneeze.
Okay. How good of a football player was Forrest Gump? It's a breakdown here. That's my cream of the crop because you know what? I want to go a little bit differently here. We could do, obviously, different stuff. I'd be like, Carl Brooks or whatever, that. No. When you can break down and analyze 40s for 40-yard dashes for Forrest Gump and all this, yeah, 100%.
Several years ago, I remember seeing somebody had put out a story where they had actually compiled the statistics from the Mighty Ducks movies.
Are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah, so it was pretty fun.
So, I mean, what's Charlie Banks, the Charlie Banks that...
Charlie Conroy. Adam Banks. Those are two different people.
I'm combining the two, obviously. Come on now.
I don't remember the full stats offhand, but it was funny because,
somebody needs to do this for Little Giants.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to do it for Little Giants. Pro Football Focus, get on it because that's your
How
forte. So
was Spike a victim of workload overmanagement?
Oh man, we can. That would be a really good podcast series. We watch these sports movies and break it down.
There we go.
Kind of like a little bit Bill Simmons does rewatchables and that, but that would be a good one to do because we could do Major League.
Sure could.
And some of those. What other ones could we do? I mean, Varsity Blues, Any Given Sunday. I refuse to do the program. I know I'm in the minority in that.
We still have to watch Draft Day.
You need to watch it before we go to the draft.
Okay. If it gets to that point,
I will loan you my copy so you can watch it.
But my thing was I'll watch it with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if it gets to the point where we just don't have time to do that, then yes, I will watch it before then.
We need to do like Science Mystery Theater version of it.
Mystery
too.
Science Theater.
Mystery Science Theater, whatever.
What are the odds you see somebody with a Bo Callahan jersey
at Green Bay?
Okay.
Oh gosh, that would be awesome. 0, 0, but that would be awesome. Man, that is shaping up though. If you think about it, for the draft, a lot of storylines.
Yeah.
Sanders, draft Hunter.
Just the quarterbacks in general are always one.
Yep.
If someone like the Jaguars gets the one, they're probably not going to
trade.
Yeah, they're not going to pick a quarterback.
Right. That trade will probably happen before the draft day.
Usually, but you never know.
Yeah, that's shaping up. Will Shedeur be there? No, I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I don't know. Well, I shouldn't say. I mean, Dion used to work that draft, so maybe he'll tell him to go show up.
Who knows?
I don't know. Well, Travis and Shedeur are probably going to be first-round picks, so Dion would. Boy, that would be something. I'd have to wear my primetime jersey then, and try to get Dion to come on the show.
Where are we going to broadcast?
I got to figure that out yet, man. Yeah. Still saying, if we wanted to, somebody can just drive the mobile man cave, and you and I are.
I think Richie in the past has nominated himself for that.
We'll just roll around in the back, kind of like the dogs in Dumb and Dumber when they're trying to, and then we're like rolling all over the place. So
we're gonna spend 10 minutes parked at this Hy-Vee, and then we're gonna spend 5 minutes.
We're on the move, man. Yeah. We're the mobile man cave
from 8 to 8:30. We will be at the corner of 27th Street.
Some residential area that's not blocked off.
When I was in Green Bay a couple weeks ago for the draft, I did see that there's a couple of places that had the big signs that they're various places were renting themselves out for the draft.
What did I see? I thought I saw something else. They were opening up like spots, not the EAA campground. I thought there was another one though too. I don't remember, but I just keep thinking, gosh, we reserved ours how long ago? So, no, that's I was actually thinking about that the other day. That's something in the new year, beginning of the new year, nail down and try.
Yeah, I mean, we got time.
Because I would definitely like to have a go-to spot, just like set it up every day, and that's where we're at. So, but we'll figure it out. We got people we know over there. We'll figure it out and get it lined up. So. All right, that's your cream of the crop, long version of the cream of the crop here this morning. But speaking of a little football here this morning. Football. No, I was okay. Never mind. I got sidetracked here because I saw apparently Jason Kelsey's getting his own late night show.
Saw that.
That's wow. Are you all about the Kelsey mania right now?
I don't have a problem with the Kelseys. Like I'm not a super a gigantic fan, but I don't have a problem with them. I mean, I get why they're popular.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things. It's just not for me.
That's very politely putting that. If we did like a non cream of the crop, I probably would put George Pickens on this. Did you see what all happened last night? So first of all, he had to be restrained by security after the game, after the loss. Apparently, him and was it Ward that were getting into a fight at the Hail Mary towards the end of the game, and then he blames the loss on the snow and the refs and all that. I'm like, dude, shut up for crying out loud. I mean, just take the L. Take the L and move on.
I'm willing to bet that he got a bit of a chatting from Mike Tomlin.
I would think so.
Knock it off.
Yeah. And probably not in those words. It was Greg Newsome, not Ward, Greg Newsome. Yeah. But yeah, final seconds.
Kudos to Greg Newsome for paying attention on the Hail Mary, apparently that's something you can do. You don't necessarily have to be jawing with the crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knew?
Newsom said fake tough guy talking about Pickens. So, all right. Yeah, let's get this thing going here. And this is so stupid. Like, okay, so, and then on the other side of this, you got Myles Garrett. Great player. Great player. But you don't need to be sitting out there, in my opinion, saying, I'm the number one pass rusher. I'm the number one guy. Not TJ Watt. I'm paraphrasing here, but you know what? I don't want to speak for TJ Watt, but at this point, I'm pretty sure TJ Watt now is maybe more focused on how many wins and getting to the postseason and win a championship.
That says a lot about unfortunately for the Browns, the spot they're in, where that's something that's a high priority for him right now. And it would probably be a little bit different if they had, more wins, but
right. Yeah. That stuff is stupid to me. And I get it. You can have that internal talk like, okay, I'm going to take a, right now, I would probably guarantee you TJ Watt does not care who's perceived as the number one pass rusher in the league.
He's the best pass rusher on the much superior team that's got playoff aspirations.
Yeah, I'd rather be that point too. So, so I'll steal this from DP show yesterday because it kind of translates or factors in. Which career would you rather have, Eli or Aaron Rodgers?
Good question.
Everything's the same.
Everything's the same.
Tell
you what, I'm going to go Eli, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the Super Bowls. I'll tell you, because but either way, they're both set financially, which is always nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I've really enjoyed kind of seeing this post-career success for Eli.
Mm-hmm.
With like the Manning cast and the commercials and stuff like that. Obviously, he was a very buttoned-up guy in New York. But I'm enjoying him kind of what we've been able, him kind of coming out of his shell, so to speak.
Yes.
And so I'm going to go that route.
We've saw the personality, especially with him and his brother doing these and the commercials. I mean, you're seeing that personality come out a little bit,
right?
The tough part is like, okay, so because this is it's two opposite ends of the spectrum, isn't it? You got one quarterback who's got more Super Bowls, 2-1. I think he's getting in a Hall of Fame.
I do too, but we know if we're comparing who's had the better playing career from an on-field aspect, it's Rodgers.
Aaron's perceived as one of the better throwers, better quarterbacks. Yeah. Eli's not going to be in that category. He's got the MVPs. He does have one Super Bowl. So, it's like, okay, do you want to be known more as the legendary, one of the good game's greats? Or the other part too with the Eli thing, he didn't just win 2 Super Bowls. He beat Tom Brady and the Patriots.
And two
those 2 Super Bowls.
All-timer type Patriots teams.
Exactly. So I think that factors into it too a little bit. It's like I didn't beat Rex Grossman. I beat Tom Brady, and one of them was an undefeated Patriots team.
That was, talked about, could this be the best team ever?
Right. So I think you factor that into it a little bit too. I will admit, if it's me, yes, part of it is I want the individual accomplishments too. Like, okay, it is kind of cool knowing I've got an MVP award. Right. I'm a lock to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to be considered as one of the best from a playing standpoint, one of the best.
Yep.
That factors into it just selfishly, and I think ego has to play into it a little bit.
Sure,
but yeah, 2 rings. That's what you kind of because Aaron is almost at the Peyton phase now, where when Peyton was at the end is like he just needs one more.
Right,
needs one more.
That's a good way to put it.
Because then you can. I think it's because then you can use the word multiple.
Right, because obviously the difference there is Rodgers got his early in his career. Manning Manning was a little bit later on, but then obviously he got the second one with the Broncos. But right. No, it's like Eli Manning is an all-time New York Giants great, but obviously Aaron Rodgers can say he's an all-time league great.
Well, probably just Packers consider his Jets career.
Well, I mean, I know
what you mean. Yeah,
but yes, he's not going to go down as an all-time great yet.
No, his name will not be up there. Favre, I think you could say, had a better Jets career.
Favre was actually his year in New York. He actually was having a really good year until he got hurt in the second half.
That bicep injury.
Yeah, he was having a really good year for them.
I remember because this was my senior year in college when he was with the Jets, and I had a Favre Jets jersey, and I believe it was a game against the Patriots, and that was the year Brady tore his ACL. So it was.
Yep.
But Patriots still won 11 games, I think, with Matt Castle. I think it was a Thursday night game, and it was Jets beat the Patriots, and I celebrated like the Packers won, and I went out on Water Street wearing my Jets jersey and everything. So it's just like, because beat the Patriots, that sort of thing. But what an idiot I was in college. But anyways, but no, I would say he had a better Jets career than Aaron's had.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Well, playing career.
Playing career.
I mean,
you're right.
There's other things in play here.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
But maybe the thing with Favre was he was only there 1 year. Maybe that was for the best.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't there long enough to wear out his welcome necessarily.
You know what would be hilarious though is if Rodgers does retire this year, but then pulls the Favre and say, I'm coming back. Like a team's just desperate. But the thing is like what team out there would be?
Yeah, who is out there that would be?
And
don't say it.
I didn't say it. Somebody else said it.
I know. But to me, it's a much different spot than that's not happening. It's not. But I'm trying to think who would be that team that is like set up where they would think like, man, because it was the Jets,
right?
And we've had 2 years of seeing it with the Jets that. There was no plug and play with Aaron Rodgers. It just, obviously year one had the injury, and then this year it just hasn't worked. Like,
right.
I don't see another team saying, this is the Arrested Development mean where you've got Tobias and Lindsay talking about like going to couples therapy, and Tobias is a therapist. And Lindsay's like, well, does that ever work for anybody? He goes, no. Everyone always just kind of talks himself into thinking it'll work, but it never does. He goes, but maybe it'll work for us.
Yeah.
That's what it is. If there's another team out there that tries to talk themselves into it.
Mm-hmm. I think Dr. Crow was right too that Tom Brady's ruined the quarterback position for everybody. Not in terms of just longevity, but the fact that
everyone thinks they can do it.
Yeah,
longer than they can. Like,
yep. And 7 titles. But the difference is though too. Yes, when Brady went to Tampa Bay, yes, he wanted his guys and but I also think he embraced
he embraced Bruce Arians.
Exactly. Yes.
This wasn't, I'm going to come in here and we're going to do everything my way. He came in there knowing Bruce Arians was the coach and saying, yeah, I want to be here. I want to play with Bruce Arians because Bruce Arians could have a prolific pass offense. I mean, he was the guy that's like, look, we're going to throw it down the field. Like, we're going to throw the ball. Like, and either it's going to work for us or it's not, but that's what we're going to do.
Right.
And that was something Tom Brady embraced, and kudos to him for that.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's the biggest difference.
That's why he's the GOAT.
I think that is the biggest difference in that. And kudos to Arians too. I remember during that time it was like, he wasn't afraid to bark at Brady. He didn't have that intimidating.
He didn't coddle him.
Right. Exactly. And I think, but that's also a credit to Brady for
taking the coaching.
Right.
It's a two-way street.
Exactly. And
that's why they had success.
Because in my opinion, there's on paper, at least with this amount of talent for the Jets, there's no reason they shouldn't be a playoff team.
I agree.
There's no reason that they shouldn't be. And it is, to me, this is the best, worst team of all time. The biggest failed experiment.
Bigger than the Philadelphia Eagles super team?
Yes, because at least Philadelphia, towards the end, I think they finished 500. This is bad.
Yeah.
This is really bad. I mean, you got firings left and right. This is, to me, of all the dream teams, super teams put together, the worst.
Yeah.
The worst. I mean, for crying out loud, at least the Lakers, when they brought in Karl Malone and Gary Payton, made the finals and lost to the Pistons. Or the Rockets with Barkley and Olajuwon and Pip, they made postseasons. This is the worst by far. When you lose to like the Patriots in some of these games, and
yeah,
you were better last year with Zach Wilson as your quarterback.
They're better 2 years ago with Mike White.
Yeah.
At least Mike White was throwing for some yards. At least he had a 300-yard passing game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awful. And it's his fault too, but you look at a guy like Devontae, it's like, dude,
this is what you wanted.
This is what you wanted, right? This is what you wanted. And look at it now. Because let's say, I don't know if Green Bay would still be good, but let's say Devontae stayed in Green Bay and started playing for Jordan Love. Would Devontae have numbers? And he had I think people forget, he had a really good first year with the Raiders.
Yes, he did. He put up big time numbers.
Yes. But would he have numbers now or work? Because he was the same draft class as Mike Evans. And Mike Evans, to me, is a Hall of Famer. But would Devontae actually have that career now where it's trending more towards a Hall? I think it's It's debatable. I think it's close, but would he actually be more in that like likely category that he could be in the Hall of Fame?
Could be.
Because he was on that track, I think. But yeah,
Never know.
interesting. Yeah, the fallout of this whole thing is going to be wild, man. Is this Aaron always talked about too, not to get on an Aaron Rodgers tangent, but he always talked about him, when he fell in the draft, he always talked about humble pie. I got to wonder from a personal standpoint, is this a big time humble piece of pie for him? What's going on this year? I hope so.
You're right.
I really hope so. If he talked about how that draft was a piece of humble pie for him, I hope this is the whole thing.
Yeah, this is a whole meal.
Mm-hmm. Because the franchise did everything that you wanted,
right?
And look what it's created. I don't get it. If you're not humbled by that,
then there's no hope.
No. All right, quick break. We'll be back with some more football talk coming up after these few words. Also, if you're not a hunter and you won't be out in the woods tomorrow, let me point you in a direction where you could help out your community. Some of our crew over here at the stations will be over at Bullwinkles from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Bowling for birds. With a small cash donation, you'll get a shot at knocking down all the pins. If you score a strike, a Thanksgiving turkey will be donated to a family in need in the Chippewa Valley. Win-win over there. And then on the 26th, next Tuesday, we're going to be over at Hy-Vee from 10 a.m. to noon, handing out some turkeys. So if you know somebody, or maybe maybe it's yourself too, that's in need of a turkey for this Thanksgiving, send them on over to Hy-Vee on November 26th from 10 a.m. to noon. We did it last year, and we're doing it again this year. And just a couple more days left for you to also, and more details are at aroundthe715.com, or you can hit up sportstalk1051.com and click on the banner up there. But we are also still taking nominations for Backyard Dreams for nominating a child to go Christmas shopping this year. So we're hoping to take around about 15 kids. Last year we did 10, so we want to take a few more this year. Again, more details at aroundthe715.com or sportstalk1051.com. All right, where are we at? Bottom of the hour here too. So did you ever go hunting when you were a kid? I know your dad. I should turn your mic on, probably.
You're gonna ask me questions and not let me be able to answer?
Yeah, no.
I did when I was younger. Actually,
Okay.
it was when I got to college. I was always gone
Yeah.
during that time, so it was just tougher to do, and I just kind of never got back into it. So
Mhm.
I did.
Yeah. So you are a venison connoisseur?
Oh, I love venison.
Mhm.
That's the tough part is I don't hunt, but I love venison. So usually I just gotta, my dad will have me pretty well set up. So, but yeah, I love venison.
Best of luck, everybody going out there. Maybe you're already heading the roads, or maybe you're already at deer camp, or maybe you'll be going later on today. But safe travels too, because roads will definitely be busy. You can tell when people are going going out there to camp and such. So reminder, we won't have a show on Monday because I'll still be, hopefully, well, maybe I'll be tagged out, but I won't be in Monday regardless, because maybe we'll be cutting it up or something like that too. But we'll be back on Tuesday. Back on Tuesday for a couple days, and then off on Thursday and Friday over there. So it'll be a quick week for the Packers after this game too, because they will have the Dolphins coming to town here. But first things first, we've got the Arizona Cardinals. Jeez. San Francisco 49ers. Cardinals are leading that division for the NFC West here. I want to start off with your team, though, because you are going up against the Bears, Brandon. Any concern with this game after what you saw with the Bears last week against Green Bay? Or, I mean, to me, it's like a division game. Yeah, everything's off the table at that point, too, it feels like, record-wise and all that. So.
Well, first of all, I'm a Vikings fan, so there's concern for every game. But, yeah, I mean, last week we saw there was some encouraging things. Game one out of the...
Is it at Chicago or Minnesota?
It is at Chicago.
Okay.
So, third straight road game for the Vikings. But...
Go Bears.
So hopefully somebody clip that for usage later on. But
I'm talking about black bears. Go
polar bears, black bears.
Yeah. Which is weird. Why are the Bears grizzly bears? There's no grizzly bears. I know some black bears could be brown, but come on, let's be a little bit real. Yeah, look at the cinnamon bears out there. Anyways, that's a grind my gears. That's a Festivus list.
That's a Festivus list. But yeah, I mean the offense obviously showed some signs last week. We'll see. I mean, if that was just kind of the it seems like at times you'll get like when a coach or a coordinator gets fired, you kind of get that 1 week bump where everyone thinks, oh, it's a lot easier, and then it's kind of not.
Yeah.
So we'll see this week. Obviously it's going to come down to how much can the Vikings get after Caleb Williams? I mean, we know Brian Flores is going to throw a lot of different stuff at him. So, the run game might be a way to kind of slow that down. But the Vikings have been really good stopping the run. So, those games when the Vikings play at Soldier Field over the years, there's been some clunkers in there. So, we will see. But yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing for me is just defensively, how much can they get after Caleb Williams? And how much does Chicago try to obviously balance that out by getting the ball out of his hands quicker?
Let me ask you this, because this seems to be the question of the week for a lot of the national talking heads out there. The team in the NFC that is best suited to challenge Detroit is who? Or give me a couple.
mean, you can. I mean, I can throw a token case in there for Minnesota simply because they lost to them by 2. I mean, that's a game where Detroit wasn't winning it. They needed a field goal in the last seconds to win it. But otherwise, like, I'm always, I'm thinking of a team that's going to, if it's like the Rams or the 49ers, if they end up coming out of the West. I mean, the 49ers, this is a very big week for them because they could really fall behind, and it might just be a year where, they're old and, the last few years of playing deep in the playoffs kind of catches up with you. That's a lot of extra games. You have to put on some bodies. So maybe this is just a year where that's the case. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Like, I still don't trust Philadelphia. It's just one of those things where you feel like there's something bubbling below the surface with Sirianni and that team. Like, we've seen the drama before. Like, if they have a bad loss, does that suddenly kind of rear its head? It's kind of like in a way, it's like the Bears, where after they lost the Hail Mary game to Washington, like, immediately there was just like griping. You know what I mean? Like, they were just waiting for something to go wrong just so they could gripe about it.
Yeah.
Like, is that the Eagles? So I don't know.
That's a big game for the Eagles coming up at the Rams this weekend.
It is. It's Sunday night, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And then they got at the Ravens after that.
Right. So, if the Eagles win those games, then maybe that'll go away for me a little bit. But I don't know. Like, seeing those, those NFC West teams, remember at the beginning of the year, I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl, and it's been very up and down for them. But I think we've seen some performances where you could see it you could see it, even if it's not going to. Like, you could say, okay, I don't think that's going to happen, but I could see it. And the 49ers, at this point, they're just a team that you're going to have to you're going to have to see that. You're going to have to see them die before they're not there anymore.
Right. They're kind of the Cardinals in baseball a little bit.
A little bit. Or they're that, they're just kind of always there.
Well, and you're not necessarily counting them out, right?
No.
It's because how many last couple of years we've said that about the Cardinals, it feels like, even though they're further down, it's like, I still don't trust it.
Right.
Until they're actually out.
And the Packers have a chance this week to kind of really put a big blow into that.
And I'm looking at the 49er schedule here, and this is what makes me nervous heading into this game because they're coming off of a loss against Seattle. Yes, the division's still up in the grabs, but San Francisco is an incredibly desperate team, I believe, because of their schedule coming up here. They're at Green Bay this weekend. They're at Buffalo the following week. They've got the Bears at home, the Rams at home. Then they got to travel to Miami, and then they're home against the Lions, and then they finish up with the Cardinals on the road. That is a brutal schedule.
That's tough.
For a team that's currently sitting 5-5 right now. You're talking 2 weeks in a row where you're traveling to Wisconsin and then Buffalo, New York. Then a couple of weeks later, you got to go to Miami, and then your reward is like, hey, we're home, but then it's the Lions coming over, who, let's face it, probably want a little revenge from last year too in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, sure.
We saw what the Lions did to the Cowboys this year in the little revenge game there. So, but yeah, that's brutal, and I always get nervous with desperate teams. Especially if it's a desperate team that has had your number lately
and has talent.
Yeah. San Francisco is 5-5, not because of a lack of talent. There's been injuries. There's been, yes, you can look at offense they're still up there, top 5, top 10 in a lot of categories. Are they as dynamic as they've have in the past? No, but Brandon Ayuk being done is going to be a huge factor for that, tearing his ACL just a couple weeks ago. So I ain't sleeping on him. And I hope there's not a lot of Packers fans that are just looking at that record and be like, oh yeah, this is, we'll make our picks here in a little bit. But yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm also looking at these next 4 games for Green Bay as a chance. Okay, these 4 are incredibly important because, from the national sense, a lot of people are picking Green Bay to be that team that can still beat Detroit, to be the team that takes them down, if you will. That to me can be answered in these next 4 games, how they look. Going up against San Francisco, a short week with Miami, then at Detroit, then at Seattle after that. Heck, even New Orleans is playing better right now if we want with Riz at head coach over there. But these next 4 weeks are to me, going to define whether Green Bay is a championship team or a playoff team. If they just kind of get by, maybe it's 1-3, 2-2, whatever. Maybe they're just a playoff team. But if they come out and they look good in these next 4 games, then I feel better about their championship chances at that point. That's just, I think these are really big next 4 weeks for Green Bay because I think it's fair too. Like, they haven't played a great week 2 and 3 was probably their best stretch of games because of, you didn't have Jordan Love and they had great game plans there. You look at the other games, there's been something, right? There's like, okay, Minnesota, awful first half, but they made a jump in the second half. Rams, kind of the same thing. Second half, they finally came out. Arizona might have been the closest one to, it was okay. It was good. Houston, game-winning field goal at the end. Jacksonville, barely. Detroit, nope. Chicago, nope. We haven't had that one really dynamic game. And I know the Arizona one maybe looks a little bit better now than what it did, considering Arizona is 6-4 now. But I think a lot of people are still waiting for that just like, okay, feel good type of game. Because, yeah, Green Bay won 34-13 in that Arizona game, but I think there was still like, still a little like, oh, it was Arizona at that point. So, notice you didn't mention Green Bay, though.
I didn't.
You don't have any faith in them? No confidence in them?
No, I mean, they could.
You're not the best color man in the business, Monty.
Fly ball. Caught.
That broadcasting school is really paying off. You want to do some picks and predicts?
Yes.
Since we got college games, college
We
football
do.
games. We got some college hoops. Badgers are back in action tonight, which I think is an interesting game. UCF.
It is. Two unbeaten teams.
Yeah, on the road. First road game for the Badgers this year, too, I believe.
Yeah, and it's a neutral site game.
Yeah.
I think their first actual true road game is Marquette.
That's true. But I know Andy Katz earlier in the week, because he always releases like his top games to watch, and this was one of them with UCF. But avoided a little bit of a letdown against Rio Grande after the Arizona game.
Yeah.
But I mean, John Tanji and John Blackwell back to back. It's also nice to say that Wisconsin, number 1 in the country in free throw percentage after how many years?
And that was brought up on the broadcast Monday night. How 2 years ago, just how bad they were at it, and how they're so far they're hitting the free throws.
Yeah, number 1. We looked it up yesterday. I think North Carolina was 2 behind there, but no offense, Ethan Happ. Long gone are those days.
Ryan Evans ain't walking through that door.
And then Tanji, when you go to the line 22 times and you make 21 of those,
and it's only been a handful of games, but that's something I've really liked about this team is in the past, I felt like when their offense was stale, it's because they were stale. They were very passive along the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a team that's getting to the basket, and I really like that because that's how you get to the free throw line so much. You're going, you're playing through contact.
Mm-hmm. And I know some people were complaining about that game with all the fouls and all that, but at the same time, I think the measure of a good coach and a measure of a good team is you play the game how it's, they took advantage of it. Wisconsin took advantage of it, right?
Right. It's not like Arizona wasn't getting to the line either.
Right. So it was
Wisconsin got to the line more, but they won. They won by double digits. So.
Yep. So I give them credit for that.
Yep.
All right. We'll wrap things up here with some picks and predicts. We got some hoops games. Bucks are back in action tonight, too. A big game against the Pacers. Both teams sitting at 6-9 record. So we'll put that in our picks. Some college hoops, college football, and, of course, NFL picks. Coming up. Okay, let's get right into it. Let's do. By the way, we're gonna get back into a little bit of a groove with the podcast Top 5 Plus. We'll start it up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we
here,
will.
over there. But I want to throw out a couple of notes with the pod. So starting in a couple weeks, kind of revamping it a little bit. We got some new stuff coming there, but also I want you to leave us some voicemails and texts on there, so you don't just have to email or send it on the on Facebook or Twitter anymore. We actually have like a Google Voice account where you can leave a voicemail over there. I know a couple of you have already had questions, comments, shout outs, whatever the case may be. You can also text it to that same number over there. So especially like if you have a top 5
Yeah.
suggestion,
We want to hear them.
or you want to tell Brandon and I, the both of us, that I'm always right in my top 5s over Brandon, you can do that too. So that number is in the podcast description, and put it in your phones right now. 715-303-7364. Again, 715-303-7364. That's the podcast hotline over there. So nobody will answer. It'll just go to voicemail or just hit up a text over there too. So, all right, let's do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Garrett, 49ers fan, believe he's going to the game this weekend here too. So big time matchup over there. But if you're looking for somewhere to watch any of these games, any of this, any sports, whether it's the basketball games going on, football and all that sort of stuff, college, pro, head on over to the Elbow Room, located right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire, and enjoy some nice beverages while watching the games. Excuse me. So let's start off with the NBA. We've got. Do I want to do another one? Yeah, we'll do first off Dallas at Denver. Denver's a 2.5-point favorite.
I'll go Dallas.
I'll go Denver. Sacramento at the Clippers.
Sacramento, light the beam.
I'm going to go Kings as well. And then Indiana at Milwaukee. This surprised me. Milwaukee's a 5.5-point favorite.
I'm going to go Milwaukee. They've been playing better.
Pacers transition still makes me nervous until I see it differently. I know I like the fact that they've got Andre Jackson Jr. and playing AJ a little bit more. But until I see it a little bit differently, I'm going to go Pacers for this one. College hoops, Badgers, UCF tonight.
I'm going to say Badgers.
I'm going to go Badgers too. I think it might be a little bit of a slow start in the first half again, but I think they close it out. And then we've got Marquette versus Georgia tomorrow.
Ooh, Marquette coming off that big win over Purdue. I will take the Golden Eagles once again against the Dogs.
I'm going to go Marquette too. I feel like from what we've seen from Wisconsin so far this year, Brandon, that's a team that's going to compete for the Big Ten championship. Would you agree?
I think they'll be in the mix.
Because, we opened up, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know who John Tonje was and all that, but Purdue's going to be up there, of course. I think Wisconsin's one of the top teams in the Big Ten.
I'm curious to see if they can make some strides defensively. They're not going to be able to win every game allowing 80 points.
So, okay, what else do we got? Let's do some NCAA football picks here, because Brandon, I know what he's going to be doing tomorrow. Indiana at Ohio State. Ohio State is favored by 10.5.
I will take Ohio State.
How dare you?
I know.
Do they cover?
No.
I'm picking Ohio State.
How dare you?
And they do cover.
How dare you?
They do cover. If it was at Indiana, I feel a little bit differently. I'd probably still pick Ohio State, but maybe not cover. So let's go with BYU at Arizona State. I will say this. Arizona State's going through a lot of crap, financial and all that. The fact that they're a top 25 ranked program right now.
Right.
Shout out them.
Right. I'm going to say BYU bounces back.
Arizona State's favored by 3, but I'm going to go BYU too. Colorado at Kansas.
I will take the Fighting Neon Deons. Colorado.
I'll go Colorado in this one too. I'd save the Wisconsin one. Brandon's Army versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 14.
Notre Dame has been playing well since the Northern Illinois loss. I'm going to take Notre Dame, but they don't cover. I'm going to say it's like a 27-20 game.
I'm going to go Notre Dame, but I was going to go like 30-20 for that one. Then finally, Wisconsin, Nebraska. Nebraska favored by 1.5.
This is tough because Wisconsin has owned this rivalry.
Mhm.
Don't know what to expect with the offense.
I was going to say, do you trust the Badger defense more?
I mean,
to
they're
slow down?
they're coming off a fantastic effort. That defense by far played, but that might be the best defensive effort of the Luke Fickell era.
Mhm.
Can they do it again? Now they're not going up against Dylan Gabriel, but Dylan Raiola is, he's
Patrick Mahomes wannabe.
He's talented, but he's talented.
Yeah.
He's talented. I will take Wisconsin like 20-17. I don't think it's gonna be a very pretty game.
I am going to go Nebraska 20-17.
All right.
So that was my score for that game. Let's move to the NFL world, shall we? With our leaderboard picks here, Jolene just running away. Although Peter made a nice jump too. So Jolene 117, Peter's at 115.
I know I had a bad week last week, so
did I, but I'm still one up on you. So I'm gonna play the cruise control now with you.
Well,
pick every game the same as you.
Okay. Well, who'd you pick last night?
I got it wrong.
So I think a lot of people did.
Let's do Chiefs at Carolina. Barn burner.
Kansas City.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
You sure about that? Coming off of a loss. Back on the road.
Carolina coming off a win and a bye.
Yeah.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Your Vikings versus the Bears.
I will take the Vikings, but I think it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Vikings.
I think it's gonna be a bit of a rock fight.
Rock fight. Tennessee, Houston.
Houston.
Maybe the future home of one Aaron Rodgers because he has land in Tennessee.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm going
Houston or old Houston.
Yeah.
I will take
the winner of this one gets to wear the Oiler throwbacks.
Titans just need to give the Texans the Oilers IP.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go Texans.
Yeah, I would go Texans.
Detroit at the Colts.
I'm gonna go Lions.
I'm gonna go Lions. I do feel like the Lions are gonna lose like a stupid game coming up here
because that just happens. And okay, the Colts are coming off the win over the Jets. Like, good for Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. Like, kind of bouncing through the hats. I mean, I think you might have seen the video that surfaced of Kevin O'Connell talking with him after that game, basically telling him, like, hey, stick with it, you're good.
Yep.
And him getting that chance. I mean, I can make a lot of gripes about how they handle that for him.
Right.
But he's said and done all the right things so far.
Yeah. But I do feel like the Lions are going to lose a stupid game that they shouldn't lose.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they win this week. Patriots at the Dolphins.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
I'm going Dolphins too. Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Danny DeVitos. Tommy DeVitos.
DeVitos.
I know. I'm just trying to make
hey, if it was the Danny DeVitos, I'd be watching for sure. He just celebrated his birthday this week.
Did he?
He's like 80.
Penguins 80 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to go with Tampa.
Yeah. Tampa Bay gets that W. Cowboys at the Commanders.
This is a game that I feel like should be on Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah.
Like, if I had to pick a because like obviously Detroit plays. Like, for me, the two matchups I think of for Thanksgiving are Detroit and Chicago, and Washington and Dallas.
Yeah. Although I still have, just because it was iconic, the Dallas-Miami game in my head.
Yep, for sure. I will go Washington though.
Yeah.
Dallas is
Dan Quinn takes down his former team. So.
And yeah, Dallas has got a couple cornerstones. They just need to blow up the rest. But I mean, that would require better leadership than they have under Jerry.
Okay, so serious question. The odds of this happening, say Dallas gets the number 1 pick. Do they move on from Dak for Shedeur?
But they're so.
I know there's financial ramifications.
Right. I don't think so.
I don't know anymore.
But I don't think so, but I'm also using common sense.
And you can't all the time with Jerry.
Because Jerry's always going to. Jerry's the guy that definitely has said in the past he believes that there is no such thing as bad publicity. And I'm not saying that would be bad publicity to do that, but I'm just saying that might not be the smartest thing to do for the health of your team.
I think the smartest thing might be to trade that pick.
Well, the smartest thing to do would be to let Jerry Jones let a football guy that's accomplished something in the 21st century run the team.
I think if they can do something to what the Bears got when they traded the 1 pick.
Yeah, you do it.
and the next year they still got the first, and it worked out.
Right,
But they got all those picks.
But
man.
you do it.
Yeah. Broncos Raiders.
Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos too. Bo Nix. I think
He's-
pleasant surprise.
He's done
so
a really
far.
good job of just kind of being point guard for Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm. Cardinals Seahawks. Interesting game.
It is. I'm gonna go Seahawks. They're coming off that win. I'm kind of worrying if there's maybe a bit of a letdown after that big win, last second win in San Francisco. But I'm gonna take the Chickens at the Sea.
You know, I'm not doing this on purpose, but I'm going Seahawks. So we've picked every
Knock
game
it off!
so far. Maybe it changes in these next couple ones.
Maybe.
Eagles at the Rams.
I'm gonna go Rams.
Okay, it's going to change now. So I want to pick the Rams. I do. I really, because going over there, you talk about trust, and I just don't know what version of the Rams is going to show up to.
Yeah, because we've seen some different ones.
Mm-hmm. So I'm cautiously going with the Eagles, but I will not be surprised at all if the Rams do win. Baltimore at the Chargers, the Harbaugh game.
Harbaugh.
I'm
going to go with the Ravens.
Coming off of a bad loss. I should say bad loss to Steelers, but it was a loss to Steelers.
A tough loss.
I feel like the Ravens, even though with 4 losses, they're like everybody's like, oh, they're best team in the league still, and all that. Chargers coming off a nice win against the Bengals, but yeah, I'm going to go Baltimore with this one. I think it's going to be a good game, though.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be close.
Yep.
49ers at the Packers.
I went back and forth on this, but I settled on I will take the 49ers.
I'm picking 49ers too.
Were you balancing head versus heart?
Kinda. I'll say this. If San Francisco won last week, I'd pick Green Bay this week.
Yeah.
I know you don't always should play that card, but the fact that San Francisco lost last week and the desperation that's reeking from them makes me a little bit nervous for this one. So I think Green Bay loses, but they bounce back and beat Miami. I already call that one. So I'm nervous, but it always tends to work out. When I get overconfident about a game, it never works out. When I get nervous, it ends up working out. But now I just jinxed it. So knock on wood. So, all right. Best of luck to all the hunters out there. Don't forget to send us your photos if you have any luck. No program on Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday, though. So hopefully we'll have a little victory Tuesday. Yes, Brandon. DP and Dance are up next. Have a good weekend. Talk to you on Tuesday.